Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session, potentially for the last time here. And the only show from that nerdy site lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we have dove into a different Disney Plus offering and discussed its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we'd love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, go back to listen to all the backlog of things. I guess we don't really care if you like and subscribe at this point, since this is, as we've touched on in recent weeks, potentially the last episode for any kind of foreseeable future. But, enjoy what you want to enjoy. This week is going to be all about Doctor Who Season 2. And joining me today, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on? Ironically, because we ended up having to push the Atlantis episode last week until the new month, so I wasn't going to spend a whole bunch of extra money just to get one more podcast uploaded in May. Realistically, we could have done this episode last week because the finale had aired by that point, by the time our episode actually went live. But we got one last episode of classic animated stuff out of the way. This is we're going to be talking all about all of season 2. We've already done Robot Revolution and Lux back a number of weeks back earlier in the season, but everything has aired now, so we're going to kind of discuss our thoughts on season 2 and this era of Doctor Who as a whole, as we kind of do a send-off of our own podcast here. Housekeeping, I already talked about all that, liking and subscribing and rating and reviewing, all that whatnot. Why did we pick it? Because Doctor Who, it's a nice fitting thematic end of a couple of eras, we're both Doctor Who fans, so why not?
Yeah.
Originally released, season 2 came out here April 12th through May 31st, 2025. 8 episodes. These episodes had a runtime between 46 minutes and 69 minutes. Nice. In the Doctor Who timeline of things, we had, going all the way back to the 2023 specials, The Star Beast, Wild Be Yonder, and The Giggle. We had The Church on Ruby Road, December 25th of 2023. We had Season 1 / Series 14 last year, another 8 episodes from May through June of 2024. And we had the holiday special Joy to the World, again, Christmas time of 2024. And then we've had here Series 15 / Season 2, April through May. While there is no more Doctor Who on the docket right now, while they still kind of figure out the future of that show, there is the War Between the Land and Sea coming as a 5-episode unit-based side story coming later in 2025. Rumors are that it'll probably be this year's version of the holiday special, where maybe they'll release it a day at a time, a la the What If in recent years and something like that. But we will see. No firm date yet on the War Between the Land and the Sea, but that is tentatively the last Doctor Who thing on the docket as well. Our roll call here, we talked about in the last episode, Peter Hoare, who directed The Robot Revolution. He also directed Lucky Day of this batch of episodes, with various projects going back to 2002, including his one other Doctor Who episode, A Good Man Goes to War, being certainly a notable one. Then he also did episodes of Daredevil, Iron Fist and Defenders, The Umbrella Academy, and a couple episodes of The Last of Us, including the Bill and Frank episode from the first season, and then the episode 3 of second season, which I believe aired right after we recorded the first batch of episodes. Amanda Brochi, we talked about as well previously, because she had directed Lux. She also added The Well to her credits here. She has credits going back to 1996, including Neighbors, Girl Boss, Gentleman Jack, and Renegade Nell. Our new directors for the back half of the season here, Macaulay McPherson directed The Story and the Engine, with various assorted credits going back to 2011. Ben A. Williams directed the Interstellar Song Contest, with credits going back to 2007. And Alex Sanjeev Pillai directed the 2-part finale of Wishworld and The Reality War, with assorted credits going back to 1988, including recently Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Bridgerton, Riverdale, and he directed the Joy to the World special that we talked about at the end of last year. Our writers, of course, Russell T Davies was the showrunner, and he wrote on all but Lucky Day, The Story in the Engine, and The Interstellar Contest. Of course, being the original person that brought Doctor Who back in 2005, but he also has worked on Queer as Folk, Casanova, Torchwood, and the Sarah Jane Adventures. Pete McTighe wrote Lucky Day. He's a previous Doctor Who writer, having written the Kerblam and Praxius episodes of Jodie Whittaker's era. Couldn't tell you a thing about either of those episodes, but he was there. He also has other miscellaneous credits going back to 2008, including over 100 episodes of Neighbours. Inua Elams wrote The Story in the Engine. He is predominantly a playwright, having written a couple of plays that performed at the National Theatre in London, Barbershop Chronicles, and Three Sisters. And then Juno Dawson wrote the Interstellar Song Contest, she's also written an assortment of Torchwood and Doctor Who audio dramas with Big Finish and the like. Our cast of characters, of course, across all the episodes, we have Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, the 15th Doctor, which I can, I guess, now put 2023 through 2025 instead of 2023 through question mark. He's also worked on the show Sex Education, and he was, of course, in the Barbie movie. Virata Setu as Belinda Chandra, previously was in Andor. She was also Mundy Flynn in the first season Boom episode. She's also in Jurassic World Dominion. And Anita Dobson as the recurring Mrs. Flood, and later the Ronnie, with a long tenure on EastEnders under her belt. I won't talk about the guest stars of Robot Revolution and Lux because we already talked about them, but jumping up to The Well, we have, I actually had to look this up, Cian, because this is one of those Irish names that looks like Quelfihone. And I was like, well, this is probably one of those Siobhan things. And sure enough, it was. Cian. Cian Dunn played Shia Castellion, the kind of the captain of the crew in The Well. She's also in the last couple episodes of Andor. Rose Ailing Ellis as Alice Fenley in that episode. Also has 100+ episodes of EastEnders under her belt, as well as the series Code of Silence. In Lucky Day, we had our return of Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday, having, of course, been the companion from the previous season, as well as a stint on Coronation Street. Jonah Howard King debuts in Lucky Day as Conrad Clark, and he was most notably Eric, Prince Eric, in the recent Little Mermaid live-action remake. And Gemma Redgrave returns as Kate Lethbridge Stewart here, a role she has played since the 11th Doctor, I believe the Cubes episode, where the Earth is invaded by cubes. I forget what the episode was called, but The Story in the Engine features a cast including Sule Rimi as Omo Isosa. He was Lieutenant Gorn in the first season of Andor during the Aldhani arc, which I did not recognize until I was pulling the credits together here. He also, this was a fun fact that was revealed in the Doctor Who Unleashed episode on this episode, he was an uncredited soldier, like an extra, chasing the pig creature way back in Aliens of London in the first season of New Who, which, as Russell T Davies told him on this episode, was actually the first day of shooting New Who way back when.
Wow.
So yeah, you basically get a full circle moment kind of thing for him. Ariane Bakare as the barber was also has a tie to Andor in that he was Blue 4 in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. He's also in His Dark Materials, and he previously appeared in the Doctor Who episode The Woman Who Lived, which was one of those Maisie Williams episodes. He was Leandro, the lion man, in that episode. Continuing on with that trend, Stefan Adegbola plays Rashid Abubakar here. He's also previously appeared in a Maisie Williams episode, The Magician's Apprentice, as a newsreader. Jordan Adene as Tunde Adebayo has assorted miscellaneous credits going back to 2015. Michael Balagon as Obioma Okoli with miscellaneous credits going back to 2018. And Michelle Asante as Abena, miscellaneous credits going back to 2007, including Horizon Forbidden West, Dead Island 2, and Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail as Kasiwa. I don't know if that's a character that resonates or as you played Dawn Trail.
Yeah, I played Dawn Trail.
Yeah.
Doesn't resonate off the top of my head, but the name sounds somewhat familiar.
Sure. And then lastly, from this episode, Joe Martin makes a return as the Doctor, having played the fugitive Doctor since 2020 in the Jodie Whittaker era as well. The Interstellar Song Contest episode, we have Freddie Fox as the bad guy Kid, who was in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare as Ian Fleming. Shout out Logan. He was also in the House of the Dragon series. Kadif Kirwan as Mike Gabastone is credited. This is the thing I pulled in for him. He's credited as the mayor in Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Oh, okay.
In that movie. Charlie Condu as Gary Gabastone has been in over 300 episodes of Coronation Street. Miriam Teak Lee was Cora Saint Bavier, with some miscellaneous credits in games like Dying Light 2 and Star Wars Outlaws. Ryan Clark as Ryan Clark, host and presenter. Similarly, Graham Norton, playing a Graham Norton type here. And then Carol Ann Ford as Susan Foreman, a.k.a. the first companion, going all the way back to 1963, Doctor Who. And Archie Punjabi as the Rani, having been, I remember seeing her in Bend It Like Beckham way back in the day, but she also grew to critical acclaim and I believe Emmy nominations.
Yes.
Maybe wins in The Good Wife.
Emmy wins in The Good Wife. Yeah, she's fantastic in The Good Wife.
Yeah.
That's where I know her mostly from.
Yeah.
She's a phenomenal actress. She does such a great job here.
Nice. Wish World brings back Bonnie Langford as Melanie Bush, which she's been playing since the 7th Doctor's tenure in 1986. Ruth Madley returns as Shirley Bingham, returning from Season 1. Susan Twist returns as Susan Triad from Season 1. And we get a little cameo from Jonathan Groff, returning as Rogue from Season 1. Of course, Jonathan Groff also in, things like Frozen and Broadway and whatnot. And then lastly, in the Reality War, Steph Diwali returns as Anita Ben from Joy to the World. Jodie Whittaker makes her return as the 13th Doctor. And Billie Piper as Question Mark, of course, famously played Rose Tyler when Doctor Who was brought back, the companion to the 9th and 10th Doctors, as well as Bad Wolf and The Moment and whatever other characters you want to kind of throw in her from that era. Some trivia for these episodes. The Well, obviously a sequel to the 10th Doctor adventure Midnight. Lucky Day. Fun little trivia from that one was that strong wind machines for the helipad doors opening unexpectedly dislodged rose petals from the rafters of the set, which were left over from the Toymaker's dance sequence in The Giggle. The story and the engine is very much inspired by Inua Elam's West End play, Barbershop Chronicles. In the behind the scenes, Russell T Davies basically talked about seeing that episode and thinking how great it would be to have the Doctor in that barbershop. And Inua Elms coincidentally also reached out and was like, hey, I'd love to write on Doctor Who. And they were like, all right, yeah, let's make that happen. So that's how we got that episode. The 6-word story referenced in the show, commonly attributed to Ernest Hemingway, though not confirmed, is famously For Sale, Baby Shoes Never Worn. Joe Martin's first return as the Fugitive Doctor since Flux Chapter 3, Once Upon a Time, though she's been portraying the role in various Big Finish audio dramas. For the Interstellar Song Contest, this is Susan's first appearance since The Five Doctors in 1983, not counting the 1993 charity special Dimensions in Time. Similarly, this episode also featured the return of the Rani for the first time since 1987's Time in the Rani, again not counting the Dimensions in Time charity special. In Wish World, the seventh son of a seventh son that we get in the opening scene comes from a European folk legend that states a son matching such a description is born with special abilities. In Lancashire, and particularly in Blackburn, such a son is called Doctor because of their supposed abilities as healers. So that's a fun little tie-in to that series.
Cool.
And the Rogue cameo for that episode was shot back during the first season episode, where he basically told Shooty afterwards, they had me record this thing about a table. I don't know. So a table doesn't do that or something like that. And they show in the Doctor Who Unleashed or behind the scenes or something like that, they show basically a clip from the table read where they basically just insert in Rogue's appearance, pre-visualization, all that stuff, and everybody, was thought it was a hoot. In Reality War, Jodie Whittaker's name on the call sheet to hide her return was Petrol, and in her script, Shooty's doctor was named Clive. Billy Piper, is not credited as the Doctor, which of course has sparked theories around if she is intended to reflect the Valyard, Bad Wolf, the Moment, aka her role in the 50th anniversary special, etc.
Yeah.
Nobody knows really who she's going to be. Even people thinking, because there's a shot in that regeneration sequence that goes back to the TARDIS console, which Billy Piper poured all of the time energy into. So maybe it's that coming back. Who knows?
It's so
very
so nebulous and in the air that it could literally be anything, which I think is the actual intent. Is that Russell T Davies has done the opposite of writing himself into a corner, and that he has written himself into an open room with no corners in sight.
Well, the real open room would have been to cut it off before we see who the new Doctor is.
That's fair. That's actually a better one.
That would have been the real way to do it. Because now it's okay, well, if we don't get, if this ends up being end of the seventh Doctor's era and we don't get New Who for another 10 years, all right, is Billy Piper going to come back and do some sort of transition? Or are we going to get a hard cut like we did with Paul McGann into Christopher Eccleston?
Probably that one. If we have to wait another 10 years. Yeah.
We'll see. At time of recording, there is no news of when or if a new season will be available, but earliest estimates would now be a 2026 holiday special with no new proper season until 2027 due to prolonged production turnaround. And there is lots of speculation that this episode ended up with a lot of reshoots and rewriting to kind of shoehorn Shooty's regeneration in, stemming largely from the up-in-the-air nature of the series' future, as well as he did an appearance on Graham Norton a while back where he basically said season 3 should start filming in 2025, which was famously edited out of the episode, but the live audience heard it and basically disseminated that information. So
I think that was originally the plan until that's around the same time that the Bob Chapek. Was that around the same time as the Chapek stuff that I'm thinking about?
Bob Iger has been well established by this point of production stuff. Who knows where they're going to go or what's going to happen. A lot of it has been is Disney, what does Disney think of the reviews and the reception to this and of course the viewership numbers. Is it going to be worth pouring money into a third season here on Disney Plus, or are they going to basically go back to BBC and be like, hey, we're not interested in doing anything else, you guys are on your own again? So
very real possibility, and with those negotiations up in the air, I can understand why it's hey, let's not keep Shooty on the hook for who knows how long.
My suspicion that I've seen kind of floated around as well is because they weren't able to get anything in. Shooty was basically hey, I can't stay and wait until you come up with a decision because my star's shooting through the roof right now. So so let's go ahead and figure out some way to kind of write me off. So because it definitely feels like Reality War happens, and then the last 20 minutes are okay. Now Shooty is regenerating. There's also a promotional image of Shooty and Belinda at a dance club kind of thing that's clearly never actually in the episode. That was rumored to be from like an alternate ending where they were celebrating after, you know, the world was restored and everything like that. And then the real rumor was that Susan sees them celebrating, but also recognizes that like something is amiss in the world because like Poppy is gone and all that stuff. So anyway, the last little bit of trivia here. If you don't count the Eighth Doctor being coerced to into becoming the War Doctor, this marks the first time that the Doctor has chosen to regenerate by will instead of being fatally hurt or dying of old age. And if you do count the Eighth Doctor being forced to become the War Doctor, it's the first time it happens on a proper episode and not
Accurate.
a webisode.
True.
So yeah. So I figure we can kind of talk through episode by episode and then maybe overall stuff if you want.
Sure.
What did you think? So starting back all the way back to The Well, the third episode here, since we already discussed Robot Revolution and Lux the last time we talked about them. What did you think of The Well? This was very much one I watched. So behind the scenes, kind of in terms of us, I was watching week to week. You very much after Lux let a few episodes pile up, and then you kind of caught up, and then you basically watched the last two episodes back to back. So I watched The Well and was like, I want to talk to Cameron about this being a sequel to the Midnight episode, but I don't want to spoil that it's a sequel to the Midnight episode because I think that's a fun little reveal within the episode itself. And then like the next couple episodes too is like, I want to talk about this with Cameron, but he hasn't watched them yet, so I can't, and I don't want to. It's that thing of like, I don't want to tip the hand.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if I say anything, including like, have you seen the episode yet, or I want to talk about it or whatever, it's like, okay, now suddenly you have expectations that there's something to talk about in the thing.
Sure,
so
for sure. Yeah.
I was very actively trying to avoid doing that. What'd you think of The Well?
The Well, I love The Well. The Well there is something that when Doctor Who does horror well, it is done extremely well. I think of Silent Angels. That's not right.
Weeping Angels.
Thank you. I was like, that's not right. The Weeping Angels, I think, is like prime. People are like always talk about the Weeping Angels as like their favorite episode because it is
Blink, rather.
Blink, yeah, rather. It is the introduction of this horrifying concept and creatures that really does like freak you out in the back of your mind. I think the Moffat era was great about these more conceptual, insidious forces. And The Well is by picking up on like what, under Russell T Davies, which was probably his best, horrifying thing. Picking that back up and being like, by the way, it's gotten worse. Much, much worse. Is such a great one. It's a touchstone to David Tennant's era, which is, of course, is, quote colloquially my doctor. Like that's the doctor that I definitely attach myself to the most. In his era, even though I've definitely watched more shooty stuff like over and over again from the first series and the I watched a lot of his stuff. Like I'm mostly like a one and done person. Like I watch it once or twice and then I move on. Ergo, I have watched so much Doctor Who stuff over the years. But Shooty has like definitely been elevated to my favorite. Like Shooty's my favorite Doctor. Tennant's still like quote unquote my Doctor Who. Like when you say Doctor Who, David Tennant is still like the one I think of.
Sure.
But Shooty is like, if you're like, oh, but who's your favorite? It's like Shooty. 100%. There is a energy and a level of like presence that he has had as the Doctor that I just think is borderline unparalleled. I think that he just stands like what I want it out of the Doctor. What I want is someone who recognizes the pain and heartache that it is to be the last Time Lord, but also can find the joy in the life of the little things, like finding the small things in the universe that are important because they're important to one person rather than just like on the scale. It's just a lot of the message of this current Doctor that I think is very profound and very interesting. That being said, The Well touches on, you get Shooty, you get this soul survivor. It's like you get a lot of feelings of like Alien from it.
It was released. One of the trivia things was it was released on Alien Day, And there were very clear homages and references to Alien. One is like, we'll have to nuke it from orbit.
Yep.
And then also the way that the captain kind of jumps into the pit is meant to evoke Ripley as well.
Yes. Very much so. But one of my favorite things about it was just the idea of how it plays with perception of either they all went crazy or like and died from someone killing them, or like they killed themselves. Like it's one of the two. And when it finally gets to this girl and she's just like, I had to kill someone, like she was my friend. This entire buildup of like what's really going on, and you have Jackass and Jackass 2 absolutely just being macho dickbags the entire time. And just being like, it 100% cop energy, like so much cop energy of like, I don't know what's going on, therefore I am going to be angry and yell and just like, I'm going to take control of the situation by being an angry man. And it's just like, I'm like, this is great. I'm loving this. Just everything about it from the beginning to the end. I thought The Well was just purely fantastic. Just such a phenomenal episode. Spoilers, it ranks very high in my ranking of the episodes.
Yeah. Similarly, I really enjoyed it. And then like when the turn happens, like I liked it enough as like this mystery and this force that has attached itself to this woman that basically, wreaked havoc on this ship where people were either killing each other or this force when somebody basically, when you had this whole lineup of like somebody looking at them and then somebody standing behind it, boom, they're whipped across the room. I love that being this weird, like, like the process of elimination of like how people basically whittled down, and it just worked its way through the whole group, leaving only one person who fortunately can't hear the whispers because she's deaf. I thought was
also great communication about accessibility, especially law enforcement has such a bad history with accessibility for people who are deaf or blind or suffering from mental illness. Just a long history of being very, very bad at dealing with people who are not quote unquote like normal people.
Mm-hmm.
And so like this is like absolutely like Chandra is just so good. Belinda is just doing such an amazing job of like, she's deaf. Like we're working with her. The doctor's like doing his best of like trying to be like an accessibility advocate for this deaf woman who just wants to get home to her child. And just such a phenomenal job of that. It was so good. Just top to bottom, beginning to end, just a phenomenal episode.
So I loved all of that, and them doing the BSL, British Sign Language, and for those that didn't know it, the like captioning button that they could kind of turn on, and then the whole like when they actively don't want her to be able to read their lips or something, them turning their back to her and her calling them out and saying like, don't turn your back to me. I really appreciated that. I thought that was like, I thought all of that was really cool. And then you stack on top of that this idea that, this is a far-flung future version of the Midnight Planet, which was absolutely one of the highlight episodes of the Tennant era. And the midnight creature or the midnight entity or whatever that is has evolved in some way. One of the things I could have done without was I didn't like that they put a physical form to the midnight creature in the, like, you see something out of the corner of your eye. Like, I would have loved it if they'd done that, but didn't have a body there. Like, didn't have somebody in, a black outfit, moving behind Alice every now and then or something. Like, I wish they had just let it be the characters, like the audience not seeing something, but clearly the characters are seeing something, and it's rattling them. Because I think that's the lack of a form was like definitely one of the fascinating elements of the original Midnight episode. So I think adding a form here weakens it a little bit.
I don't know if I necessarily fully agree. I think it could have been done better. Like if other people saw, I saw something dark. It's like, no, I saw something that was like, some like, if it had been more to like a person's viewpoint of like what they thought they saw. But then again, like that gets overly complicated, I guess. I'm okay with it. Like I didn't have a problem with that, but I mean, like I would think that even if I did, that's like a minor complaint for the episode.
Yeah, it's a minor gripe. So the reveal that like this planet used to be called Midnight, and the doctor's like, I've been here. Oh no, I need to go back to Belinda.
This is why. This is one of the reasons why using the history, like the long tenured history of Doctor Who, works really, really well because you can bring something in that it's like, well, we've seen the Doctor be super confident in the face of a Goblin King, in the face of like these aliens and robots and all this stuff, and for him to feel terror, is so good.
Because if you go back and watch that episode, like David Tennant is terrified by this creature that basically takes over his voice, and he only survives that by somebody sacrificing themselves on his behalf, kind of thing.
Which is a big problem for David Tennant's Doctor. Is people sacrificing themselves for the Doctor and not the Doctor sacrificing himself for them.
Yeah, and we get that here too. It's basically like a little bit of history repeating with the captain basically taking the shot. It's also weird that this is again the third episode of a shooty season, and again the companion gets shot and dies. Because that's what happened in Boom too.
Yep.
So another little like even within the shooty era, it's a little bit of history repeating. But that was like I loved that. Even that moment of like the terror of, okay, they think they got away. Oh no, somebody hears the whispers. It's Belinda. Oh no, and then the captain takes it and runs. And there's a fun little bit of foreshadowing, if you like. It's a blink and you miss it kind of moment. But they set up early on that the thing monitors how many life forms are in the lift, and it can only have like 6 people at a time or whatever. And when the captain's running off with the creature, and they get back in the lift and go up, it shows 4 life forms, even though we only see 3 people in there.
Yep.
Teasing the end a little bit, where we see that. Yeah, it seems like the creature lives on with the poor, survivor.
Great horror. That's how you do it.
Yep, exactly. So I really like this one as well. I thought it was.
Why get rid of such a great enemy, a villain?
Yeah, that's like there's been a lot of debate, I think, in the community of like Midnight is such a great standalone episode. We don't ever want to revisit it because like how do you improve on that? And so I think it was like when they make the reveal that this is a sequel to Midnight, it's like, oh, he actually like he had the audacity to do it. Okay, I'm like,
you decided to make a touchstone of your best episode.
Yeah,
like bold of you.
It's how is this going? Are we going to get what's the phrase? Lessening of dividends? I don't know. Or is it going to hold up? And like I said, I think my gripe is that they added a form to the creature to visually represent it to. I don't know if maybe it was intended to be like, hey, it's a dumber audience and they don't get it if we don't show that there is actually a thing behind her. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fascinating that they touch on the idea that like this, because this not being what the original Midnight Creature did, it still plays into this idea that like the Midnight Creature, when David Tennant meets him, is kind of a jokester, trickster, and is having fun taking this character's voice. And now he's maybe, with eons ahead and, a sun that's burnt out and whatnot, maybe this Midnight Creature is now a little bit more malicious and enjoys relishing and has, been buried in this well for however long that now that they've broken free, they evolved. I thought that was an interesting approach. And if there should be a Midnight 3 in the future somewhere, or where we find like which I feel like would the natural progression here would be the Doctor lands on this derelict ship that has just been floating in space for years and years and years after this adventure, ends up finding that out in the logs, and that's how we realize that it's a Midnight 3 episode. Go full aliens with it.
Have fun with it, yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the well before we move on?
Nope, we're going to move on.
Yep. So up next was Lucky Day. So this is another one. As soon as it was done, I was like, I want to talk to Cameron about this because I love the twist and the fact that the big bad are the absolute shitty grifters of the world.
Yep. Yep. British Ben Shapiro. He's taller than I thought he'd be.
Yeah. Yeah. The especially in the gaming space where we spend so much of our time, this is like the Grums and the quartering,
yeah.
the JT Smashes of the world. Like, fuck those guys. Fuck all those worthless pieces of shit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The thing that the in the moment, this episode I probably had as my favorite episode of the season.
Nice.
It dropped significantly with the Wish World and Reality War because I hate that Conrad is kind of let off the hook for his shittiness because it rings too true to what so often happens. Like, Conrad should have suffered. And I appreciate that this episode gives us the good Doctor Who, you will suffer, you will die alone kind of speech that I feel like this Doctor didn't really get to give too often.
It was definitely held in reserve. Ncuti did not give out the quote unquote justice of the Doctor.
Yeah.
Very often.
This Doctor gets angry in this episode and at the end of Interstellar Song Contest, or midway through Interstellar Song Contest, when he thinks Kid has killed 1 million people in the audience or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are the two times that he gets angry. Everything else, he wildly all over the rest of the spectrum emotionally, but these are the two times that he has a rage to him of you went after my friends, that doesn't fly with me.
It reminds me of the Fury of the Time Lord at the end of that episode. I think it's Tennant's. It's post Piper leaving. It's the one where he's been he gave himself amnesia to be a Victorian era school teacher. At the very end, he deals with the family.
Yeah, and
they're that's a famous clip, by the way, you can find on YouTube, of the Fury of the Time Lord, where he's like, you mess with the Time Lord. If the Time Lord decides to deal with you, the Time Lord deals with you. And it's not kind. He ran away and gave himself amnesia to hide from the family out of kindness because of what he knew he would do to the family.
Yeah, there's also the Time Lord victorious moment that David Tennant had. David Tennant does a good job of hitting those rage moments. Matt Smith does a good job of hitting those rage moments in some of his stuff. Peter Capaldi, obviously, just from his eyebrows can hit those rage moments. And just Ncuti didn't really get a lot of opportunity to do that. And I imagine there is a very deliberate choice in the same way that Jodie Whittaker doesn't really have a lot of those moments, because there was probably a conscious effort to fight against the angry black man or the angry woman that is going to be recontextualized as a bitch or something like that, the white doctors can get away with, which is unfortunate. But it's still I really like Lucky Day and the fun twist that we get, because up until Conrad's turn, I'm already thinking, oh my God, Conrad, you're terrible. Why are you doing this? What is wrong with you? What are you thinking? Why didn't you take that anecdote?
Yeah, me, that was me as well. And I was like, oh, he's going to die. And what is this even supposed to be about? And then that turn happens. And I'm like, Conrad, you are now the number one villain that we've had in Doctor Who in a long time.
Yeah.
Because you are the embodiment of so much. And I think, to speak to your feelings on, I guess we'll wait to that episode to touch on it, but Conrad, easily the most despicable character. He is quite honestly, like I think he's brilliantly written.
Yeah.
As far as like he's introduced as like, oh, he could have been a companion, and like he could have been this or that. He met the Doctor when he was a kid. He got a token from the Doctor. It's this, it's this kismet thing that he now meets Ruby, and it's this whole thing.
It is that it's that much maligned episode from the Tennant era that is like the guy who creates the band, and like the big bad is like the Azorbiloft or whatever, like that creature. The episode that has the actress who played Moaning Myrtle. It's like it's the same story as that guy goes through of like he meets the Doctor when he's young, he becomes fascinated, he tries to find the Doctor, but that guy finds a little support group. This guy becomes an internet right-wing grifter.
Well, what I found is amazing is I see the damage that was obviously done to him over his lifetime of he had this fantastical experience and he had But
even that experience ends with him stealing the coin from the Doctor.
Yeah.
Like
he was still a shitty kid.
He's a shitty kid who had like a shitty upbringing. Which like so like it's another one. It's one like Dot and Bubble. I appreciate it a little bit more on a second watch of like, oh, the seat, like the they did a good job of foreshadowing Conrad not being the greatest guy that you might think he is.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
I look at that and I'm like, okay, but it's also an encounter with the Doctor can be a gift or a curse depending on how you want to take it. Mm-hmm. Many of the Doctor's friends and companions die terrible, horrible deaths. That's part of the deal when you decide to go on you don't trapeze through space and time without there being a major risk to your life. And that's accepted and known. How we want to look at it and how we want to take that, you can take it very negatively. Like that one guy found a support group and he found a place for himself, and it was much more of that positive light of it. But it could also be you saw a man in a blue box who went away, who vanished. Like growing up with that, knowing that in your back of your head, and it being like, well, it has to be live.
Well, the first guy, I'm going to try and find the episode name, benefits because he finds a support group of other people that have had encounters with the Doctor. This guy does his own one-man podcast thing and basically becomes the worst version of us.
100%, yeah. Yeah, I know. No, he is, when I look at this character, and it's like, this is a character who, along the way, made decisions based on trauma. And I compare it a lot to people who, and it's a great comparison because it's in the same space as we were already, like it's adjacent to what we were already talking about, of these right-wing grifters and whatnot, is when you first learn about, when you first come to an understanding of, systemic racism, systemic problems in society, and how you as us as white men have not necessarily benefited, but we have not had our lives detracted from by these systemic issues. A lot of times when faced with that reality, people make the wrong decision and they double down and they become these angry, it's where a lot of the anger and the stoken resentment of well, I've had a hard life. It's like, nobody's saying you haven't had a hard life. It just could have been harder. And they can't see that that's what you're saying. They see that as you saying, well, other people have had it harder than you means that you haven't had a hard life. And they can't make that intellectual connection that I've had a hard life, but man, it could have been way harder. I suffer from mental health issues. It would have been way worse if I wasn't white. If I wasn't a white man. If I was even just a white woman, it would have been way worse. Things could have been so much worse in my life if I had not got the genetic, lottery ticket that I did. It's a fact.
Yeah.
But people who can't make that connection, or they begin to, and there is a reaction that a lot of people have. I know because I've felt it, of you're repulsed by it. You're no. There's something innately inside of you that just is no, that can't be true. No, that can't be real. Mm-hmm. But it is. And you have to reconcile with that. Yeah. And if you don't reconcile with it, it tears away at you and breaks you down and turns you into a little shit. And that's what Conrad is. But instead of, truth of systemic issues and whatnot, it's the Doctor and science fiction stuff brought to life in this universe, in the Whoverse.
Yeah. It's like, it's the idea that, like, the Love and Monsters was the other episode that had Elton, who is basically the, anti Conrad here. But yeah, it's this fascinating idea of the conspiracy theorist who's not really a conspiracy theorist, as the episode kind of calls out. Like, no, he's just doing a lot of this for the money. He's lying about his mom. She's got a villa in the south of France or whatever, like, that he's paid for and whatnot. He's made his money off of this grift. But the lies he's selling are feeding into the conspiracy theorist stuff, which is a fascinating thing in a Doctor Who universe that is, that does see the skies of London littered with Daleks or Cybermen or spaceships or something every other year.
Yeah,
it's like
it's hey, what's crazy? Oh yeah, remember in the Victorian era where we just had a shit ton of aliens just like walking around all the time?
Yeah.
It's in our history books, right? Yeah, it is. I mean, that's the whole, and like that's why I'm like the existential dread of like the Silence or the Weeping Angels or something that from the Moffat era is so scary. It's because like, well, when when Matt Smith turns off the brainwashing, what do? We assault our enslavers. We like, it's like, do you remember when we found out that like for a good strong period of time, ever since like visual communication existed, we had an alien race trying to like control us, and then we revolted against them as a society, as human society. Don't you remember when that happened? Oh yeah, I remember when that, like, yeah, that's in the history books and stuff, right? Yeah. The president of the United States murdered a bunch of aliens in the Oval Office. That happened.
Well, the problem is, like, we forget about the Silence as soon as it happens, so we can't write about it. Like,
there you go.
We, the audience, know about it because we're watching these stories, but the characters in the story don't remember that they've, murdered the Silence, that is
a good point.
That's one of those. I've seen lists on this of like the top 10 dark truths of the Doctor Who universe, and it is that the world around us is littered with the bodies of Silence, and we just walk by it, we see them, but then as soon as they're out of our sight, we forget that they're there.
Yep.
And so
they're bodies are corpses just hanging around.
Either we see them and immediately try and kill them, or they're already dead. We see them and forget about them.
And the fact that they're built off of the little gray man archetype, like,
yeah.
That, like, Moffat cooked that season. Moffat cooked. That's just a damn good season. Because that's also the river, like, good stuff. Good stuff.
I mean, that season starts with the Impossible Astronaut and Matt Smith being shot and dying, and there's no regeneration this time. And it's like, what? How are we backing our way into that?
Shout out to the BBC specials who were like behind the scenes. We're in Utah shooting this scene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That, of course, also the counterpoint to that is he also in that season gives us the "Let's Kill Hitler" fake out.
Yeah.
So well,
we could have gotten a real "Let's Kill Hitler" for realsy reals, but anyway.
I pulled it up here because I did love it very much, and it's a fun Dr. Light episode, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Of this season, because it relies on, and it gives us a perspective that we also don't often see of what is life like after the Doctor, by going back and seeing what Ruby's life is like here, in her relationship with Conrad, in her work with Unit, and the PTSD that she's dealing with and struggling with that Conrad exploits and plays off of.
100% he does. Yep.
But then I love with the season very much being built around the Doctor can't get back to this time and place until the finale. So what's going on? How is the Doctor going to interact with the Earth in this episode? Oh, it's in part because he's doing it well before the 2025, and so we get young Conrad. But then I love the scene at the end that is because basically it's out of order. Ruby has told the Doctor about this. The Doctor pulls him in, and Conrad is the one that tells him about Belinda, because back in the Robot Resolution, we were told somebody told me that you were going to be important kind of thing. And so I love that they tie up that thread, and it's not this like deeper, bigger mystery. It's he offhandedly mentions it because that's who he met with the doctor in the timey-wiminess of it all. But I love the doctor speech here. You've been invited into my TARDIS, Conrad, to be special, but you have to be invited into my TARDIS, Conrad, to be special. But you're special for all the wrong reasons.
Yep.
You see, I'm fighting a battle on behalf of everyday people who just want to get through their day and feel safe and warm and fed. And then along comes this noise. All day long, this relentless noise. Cowards like you weaponizing lies, taking people's insecurity and fear and making it currency. You are exhausting. You stamp down on the truth, choke our bandwidth, and shred our patience, because the only strategy you have is to wear us down. But the thing is, Conrad, I have energy to burn and all the time in the universe. Love that scene. Love that moment. Probably one of my top 5 moments of Ncuti's Doctor. And I love also mixed in with that is the deliberate choice of the Doctor holding back the it's bigger on the outside moment that every companion gets. The Conrad doesn't know that he's in the TARDIS in that moment. He doesn't know he's walked into that blue box, so he doesn't get that magical, beautiful moment.
It's not magic and it's not beautiful.
It's he materializes the TARDIS around Conrad, so he doesn't get to enter it. He's just there in his prison cell, and now suddenly in a spaceship. And so it robs him of that kind of moment that otherwise, characters love. So I
also
love
think that this is such
I love the anger of this moment.
Yeah, I think another thing about this moment, though, is that this will have a greater impact. And I think this is probably like because of the follow-up we get from this moment with the Doctor who... and this is where it's interesting. It's like, No, I'm going to hold off until we get to that episode.
Okay. Make a note so you don't forget when we come back to it. But yeah, ultimately, I appreciate that he does tie in later on to the what the Doctor said there of people just want to feel warm, feel safe.
Okay, you're bringing it up now. I'm just going to. Okay, yeah. Let's just talk about it right now. Then.
Yeah. Feel warm or feel safe, be warm and be fed.
Yeah. That I think the thing is that,
but he's using to weaponize.
He uses it to I mean technically it is being weaponized, but it is also it's interesting. In my opinion, it shows that Conrad, like this is a sign that Conrad can be a good person, but that he's chosen not to be. And this is where I think and here's the thing, I will hold off on like my final thoughts on this until we get to that episode, because I think it is a very pivotal moment for very important reasons, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah. All right. So
that's Lucky Day.
Lucky Day. Also, just the I think it is it's also a weird cop out of like the fake shrieks that they put together, and they're so fake they can trick the real unit and all that stuff. It's like this all seems a little weird and far-fetched, but it's to feed into this bigger conspiracy theorist grifter bullshit. And so I do appreciate that he gets his arm chomped on at the end of the episode, but ultimately because he is, as you touched on, and I very much agree, one of the worst characters that we've ever encountered in Doctor Who, because he knows that what he's saying is he knows he's peddling bullshit, but he's doing it and he's exploiting it and he's hurting people, and he is far too close to home in the real kind of worst sludges of the earth that we end up seeing. The fact that he is the person I want to see thrown into a volcano or something like that. I don't want to see him. I don't even want he'll spend his days in prison. And so immediately when like after that speech happens, it's immediately undercut by Mrs. Flood letting him out, which is also annoying.
Sure.
But then his ultimate fate that we get in the reality war and whatnot. Like if you had just been used as a pawn in Wishworld and Reality War, I'd be like, okay, cool. He like, haha, he had his shit turned against him. Good. But the fact that they try and redeem him, I don't like.
And that's why I'm thinking what I would want to get to.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later on.
I don't think it's a redemption, and we'll get to that a little later.
Yeah. So then we have the story in the engine, which spoilers is my favorite episode of the season.
It's up there for me for sure. It's not my favorite episode, but it is up there.
I absolutely love this episode, and the whole the bottle episode of like this barbershop, the stories, the like watching it. I found myself thinking, wow, this is like a great play. So then to find that it's pretty much the same kind of plot as a great play that played the West End, I'm like, cool. I was, spot on there. But I love just the nature of the way this episode focuses on the nature of storytelling and story.
Yes.
And the way that the barber character, was the original storyteller and basically like, because the stories that he was telling were myth, like he's not credited. And so there's this great undercurrent of like crediting artists for their work, which is also, obviously great in the era of AI stealing everything.
Well, with this engine literally stealing the stories from these people and to power itself, it sounds like AI to me.
Yeah. So yeah, like I loved everything about this. I love the stories they tell. I love the story that Abena tells of as she dreads Shooty's hair and talks about the basically slaves braiding maps into hair and stuff like that to lead into the Underground Railroad kind of paths and whatnot. Just like everything about this episode worked for me. I love the opening that we get, the pre-credits thing of the story of how this character met Shooty's doctor, presumably in the in-between Ruby and Belinda era, or even maybe before Ruby, who knows. But I love that Shooty also kind of talks about like this, this is very much the episode where they really kind of confront his blackness, and he really touches about like, this is the first time I've had this face, and this face can't go everywhere like my other faces have.
Yep.
And
it also touches on my hair's different than it's ever been. Like,
yeah, and I can go here because this place feels like home. And I mean, there's that moment of like, well, but the TARDIS can do your hair, and it's like, yeah, the TARDIS can, but
the TARDIS is in the community.
Yeah,
it's not a barbershop.
Yeah.
For black men, and this is of course as a third party very much outside of that culture, it's that there is a cultural touchstone that a barbershop has in a black community that cannot be a violation of that space, as we see in this episode, is a deep fracture to people's feelings and their belonging in a community.
Yeah, it's very much both the Barbershop Chronicle play and this episode really touch on and focus on one of the themes is a barbershop is a rare place where black men can talk things out. They can share stories with one another. They can touch each other. The intimacy of a barber and the haircuttee, I don't know, like is not really seen too much in black cultures, both American cultures, British cultures, and African cultures is very much talked about. And they touch on this in the behind the scenes. This is not me as a white guy like dictating this. This is what Inua, the writer, kind of talks about, and what even the characters really touch on as well in the like behind the scenes interviews and stuff like that. So I really love that whole aspect of it as well.
There is also a level of, it's important to note also, barbers weren't always just the people who cut your hair. A lot of times a barber was also like a surgeon or I think the best way to put it is a barber and his patient, maybe, is the best way to put it. Because you used to go to your barber for like skin ailments and other stuff like that. Like barbers have a long history of like a barber shop has a long history of being more than just the dude who cuts your hair across cultures. And I think black culture is one of the last remaining touchstones of that greater emphasis of community that most cultures have let go by the wayside. Yeah. As we've commodified hair cutting and whatnot.
Sure. The supercuts and great clipsification of things.
Yep. Shout out to Sports Clips and their MVP though. They always make me feel at home.
Sure. There you go.
They're not sponsoring us because obviously this podcast is ending, but
also we never had sponsors.
Never had sponsors.
Yeah, but so yeah, I love the story. I also love one of my favorite elements of this story. It was the idea that like it very much plays into. I think the episode even kind of like harkens back to the notion, but it very much plays into the the great moment from Eccleston of like just this once everybody lives, and I love that everybody lives in this episode.
Yeah.
I love that like none of the men in the barbership get sacrificed
Nope.
to the mechanical spider creature. I love that like the barber here gets a much better redemption, as well as Abena gets a great kind of redemption, and I love the reveal that Abena was the daughter of Anissa that the doctor won in the past. There is this weird moment of if that bet happened to the fugitive doctor, the Joe Martin doctor, and none of the post Hartnell iterations remembered their time as that doctor, how does Shooty somehow remember that he won that bet? I don't know.
I thought that was because this is post Whitaker after the.
But they don't. I mean, like even. Because Whitaker in the Whitaker era, like she specifically doesn't open the fob watch that has those, at least not on screen.
You're right. That's fair.
Presumably has those memories.
Although
but the other thing I will call out is that I will argue against myself on is he sees glimpses here and there. Like all the doctors, even the Whitaker doctor saw glimpses here and there. Once her mind had been opened up to that as like, this is a thing that happened to me, she started having those memories and those trauma and whatnot. So I imagine, yeah, like they can just kind of write it off in that vein. Of
also,
like,
yeah,
the doctor has glimpses and memories of a time before that maybe they just now piece together and say, oh, that must have been when I was this person.
Yep. I will also say the barbershop had been taken over by the engine, the storytelling engine. Would not be surprised if that also had an effect on the doctor's memories as well.
Sure. It definitely was drawing stories out of it. I also love that the first thing the doctor tries to do when he sees that this thing can like manifest stories, the first thing he tries to manifest is a weeping angel. Which, as we know, you do not want to create an image of a weeping angel.
No, you do not.
Because that in itself becomes a weeping angel. So, wild that was just a big swing.
Hey, how am I going to break out of here? I know weeping angel. Let's go. Weeping angel, I choose you.
Yeah. You might kill everybody here or send us back in time or something like that, but I'm going to risk it because everything else is unknown. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm going with like some god stuff here.
Yeah.
What is a weeping angel to a god?
Yeah. But yeah, I loved the story of this, and I love the stories that the characters tell as well. I thought were just all really cool, and I loved that this also gave Belinda a chance to not be a passive bystander. Like when the doctor goes off to the barbershop and she stays behind the TARDIS, I'm like, oh, okay, they're doing this as like a Belinda light episode. Cool, whatever. But then like it's not like she comes, she has she helps Anissa Urbina get a turning point moment of when she says that iconic hurt people phrase. And so I love that like the alerts are going off in the TARDIS and she figures out where she needs to go, what she needs to do, figures out, like walks into the barbershop and immediately clocks, just like the doctor did, you guys are the missing barbers, or you're the missing people. Yeah, I love. I thought this was just a great overall episode for both of our main characters, and then an incredible supporting cast, incredible performances from everybody. And also I love the visual language of in a season that already gave us like this cool animation thing with Lux. I love that we get another cool animation thing here with the story window, and the storytelling that we get introduced to at the beginning of the episode with the like story of how the Doctor met Oso or Omo, but then the fact that the Doctor's stories are so vivid that it is just, you know, a flashback to this moment from Belinda's life. And yeah, just really enjoyed that whole concept and idea. And I love that. Yeah, I love that everybody kind of gets to walk away with a happy little ending.
Yep.
Weird little thing though. It also sets up this odd Poppy thing that's going to come into play because because Belinda sees this mysterious little girl who I didn't clock it in the initial viewing that it was the same girl that played Poppy in Space Babies, but obviously that clearly comes into play by the end of the season. But yeah. Any other thoughts from you on this one?
No, I think I'm good.
Yep. So then we have Interstellar Song Contest. What'd you think about Interstellar Song Contest?
One of my favorite episodes.
Oh, wow. We are we are wildly different on this one.
That's totally fair. I love this episode because it's a little bit of Die Hard. It's a little bit of... There's a lot going on here that's like... This is a lot of the camp and a lot of the like British culture, but in space.
Yeah.
Stuff that I enjoy.
Very, yeah. As somebody who's never watched like the Eurovision Song Contest or anything like that, a lot of this was like, I don't care.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, like cultural British touchstones to this, with a lot of it like Graham Norton showing up as.
I love the Graham Norton bit, especially. I love the Graham Norton bit being like, "I regret that I sold myself into eternity, in perpetuity. Yep. I don't like it that I made that choice, but here I am." I thought that was a fun game.
There's just a lot of like really fun stuff. And I think it's also like Graham Norton will work until he's 90.
Yeah. There's also fun. I didn't include it in the trivia, but there is a fun other Graham Norton tie-in into Doctor Who. When Doctor Who first came back in New Who in 2005, some kind of mix-up happened at the BBC where like an ad or something, Norton talking basically, played over the audio of the episode when Rose was like running through the Autons, and people were like, "Oh, that's an interesting choice. She's listening to Graham Norton on her Walkman or something like that. Weird." And it was like, no, they screwed something up.
Yeah.
And there was also another iconic moment in some episode where like one of those ads that like pops up on the screen and then like takes over the whole bottom third of the screen, like one of those came up in a very pivotal moment with Graham Norton popping up and just being, and everybody being like, "This was so stupid, don't do that." And Graham Norton like apologized for it. He's like, obviously it wasn't me, but I'm sorry.
Yeah. Graham Norton's just a gem.
Yeah, he's lovely.
But yeah, no, there's a lot about it that I enjoyed, but I really, really enjoyed the like the whole Die Hard aspect of it, like taking over Nakatomi Tower. In this case, it's the space. I love how they're like, we can't call it Eurovision, but here's Eurovision in space.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like that.
I mean, well, it's because it's not Eurovision anymore. It's the
Interstellar Song Contest.
It's well outgrown Eurovision.
Yeah.
Imagine being 1,000 light years away and still calling it Eurovision.
Yeah.
Like.
That's fair. No, I love a lot of the
because the little Hall of Fame sequence they have does have a lot of like real Eurovision paraphernalia and touchstones and stuff like that.
Listen,
so it's they're not making any. They're just because they don't say the word Eurovision, they're not hiding the fact that it is the Eurovision.
Yeah. No, there's a lot that I love about it, but it also like I felt, and I think part of it was my detraction on this episode and why it's not like further up on my list is because it's not saying what I think it should be saying with its chest. Yeah. Which is...
And that's why I don't like it.
That's why
I think it ultimately becomes like they're trying to do too much in this story, and as a result, everything suffers.
My feeling about it is they don't go... It ends on a very quote-unquote centrist measure of how this looks and like how this plays off and what they do with this. There's a lot that I enjoy about this, but also like for a big part of it is like clearly there's a lot of nods and hints towards the current conflict in the Middle East with Gaza and as a focal point, as a hot spot for this, but really just the Palestinian or
and even that, like that's all by circumstance, because I don't think that would have been going on when this was originally written and shot a year and a half ago.
True enough, yeah.
It was probably maybe just starting at that point, but obviously it would have been like well into production from that. So I think it's any of those kinds of conflicts. It's your Syria. It's, I mean, admittedly, like Gaza and Palestine currently has been going on for many, many years.
Yeah,
so it can absolutely be that, and just it's heightened now.
But I think the fact that it's I think there's a lot like, hey, oppressors, like this contest is literally
like it's colonialism. It's a whole bunch of
it's a lot, and I think it speaks to a lot of things.
Capitalism fucking over everything in favor. It's ecology. Even the there was I don't remember the tie into it because I think it's much more like a specifically British way of remembering things, but like the imagery of the poppy being like how I think Brits used to celebrate, or like older Brits celebrate like Armistice Day or something like that. But nowadays, even that kind of has gone by the wayside. So the poppies are kind of being forgotten there too by the newer generation stuff. It is vague enough that you can kind of put anything on the poppy fields, honey and whatnot. And that's one of the weakness elements of
I think that's one of the weakness elements of it, but there's a lot about, and this is where it comes back for me. I think as looking at the season as a whole, I think this is a weaker episode. I do enjoy this episode though, because one, it hints, this is granted, now that I'm thinking about it, also, it's like I'm kind of also pissed off about this episode a lot.
It sets up things that don't pay off.
Yeah,
it gives this great surprise, shock reveal return of Susan that goes nowhere.
There's the reveal of like the split by generation of the Ronnie happens that goes somewhere, and it's good and it's fine, but it like there's a lot. I just have a lot of feelings about. But one of the things I love is we got to see an angry Doctor. That is always a highlight for me. I love it when we get to see the justice of the Time Lord. There is a lot about this episode that I enjoy. A big part of it's the Die Hard, like the terrorism, like people being flown up. Oh, we gotta bring them down. Here's a silly, dumb way that we're gonna like help everybody defrost, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like the episode has moments. That's absolutely, I think, how I watched it, was like this idea that like when you see the like pile of bodies start floating up into space behind the Doctor before he gets sucked up, it's like, oh shit, they're going here, they're doing this. And then you see million or thousands of however many bodies in space, including the Doctor's, freezing. It's like, how are they going to get out of this? What's like and holy crap, they just killed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Then they undercut it by being like, oh, we boosted the Mavity range or whatever, so we can thaw them all out in the end. And it's another one of like, okay, good, because that would be probably way too high of a body toll or something like that, even for Doctor Who. And because like it ties into I think this episode's trying to do too many things.
Sure.
Because it tries to do that and use that as like okay, this is a bad guy. Kid is a bad guy, but his motivations are, well, his planet got fucked over and his people have been maligned and whatnot, and he's basically, everybody's racist against his people now.
Yeah.
So he's angry, and he killed all those people so that he could kill even more. And blame it on the corporation. And that's another thing. Like the fact that it's just a faceless corporation doesn't, like, it's in this kind of storytelling, I feel like you need a figurehead. You need the CEO to be there.
I think that would be better,
and to like, sure, this is on your head, and like instead of the director of the Interstellar Song Contest, who was great and serves as a like, okay, you need somebody that the villain can monologue against for the first half of the episode. But it was just if the corporation is the big bad here, you got to Brennan Lee Mulligan it. You got to put a face to the name. And
Sure.
You can't just make it be the corporation.
I think that is a great point. I mean, it's not on the top of my list, but it is on the upper half of my list because I do enjoy a lot of what it does, and I think what pushes it over that middle part is going to be the like the British touchstones that I think are fun. As a foreigner, that like as somebody who's not British, I'm like, oh, how quaint they're making fun of the fact that this one guy who hosts Eurovision will be doing it forever.
Mm-hmm.
They brought Graham Norton. I sold myself into perpetuity. Oh no. Because of course Graham Norton would. There's a lot of those aspects about his character, about the the contest itself, and like the making fun of like just like how wildly different the acts are at Eurovision.
Yeah. The another fun fact trivia thing, the first or the person who is singing when everything goes tits up and she goes out into space and freezes, and so she becomes one of the first people that gets unthawed. That singer is the same singer who did the Goblin song from the church on
Ruby
Road.
Yep.
They brought her back for this.
Very cool stuff. Like, there's just a lot of like fun.
And there's
cool
the weird
stuff.
Gabba Gabba or whatever, the weird honky horn song thing that we see in like a commercial breaky kind of thing.
Yep.
Which BBC went and released like, here's the full version of that song.
We didn't need that. We're good.
It's just nonsense gibberish stuff.
It's just there's stuff about that I like. I'm like, it's very much the British Doctor Who-ness of the franchise being done here, and that's the stuff that like does put it a little bit over for me.
Yeah, I mean, like some of the highlights for me in this are the Mike and Gary-ness of it all.
Yeah,
like the bickering that they have, and then like almost the competitive one-upsmanship for getting the Doctor to love them, and then also the Doctor playing with them of like, you know what I really need in this moment? I need somebody who can do this, and then they're like, that's exactly what I do.
Yeah,
great. Here, you can help me now. I really like that. Again, in the like, this is trying to do too much. The fact that you have the singer Cora Saint Bavier as like a secret Hellion who has cut off her horns. It's like, okay, that's a little bit of trying to humanize that race again. But then also the immediate racism of like the tech guy who's seemingly her partner or her manager or something like that.
Oh yeah.
As soon as he finds out the truth, he's ready to turn on her. It's like, all right, like this needed we needed to know more about you than I do security so I can hack into this. And then immediately you're racist against her. And he he comes around at the end or whatever, but it's definitely like a because they're doing so many other things.
Yeah.
That scene needs more time to breathe, or that scene needs more setup to have a moment that can hit like that, and it just doesn't because
I felt like it hit, but yeah. I mean, granted, that's how racists are. All of a sudden, you're like, "Oh, you're a really cool person." It's like, now here's all my racism, and you're like, "Well, shit."
I mean, maybe I don't. I think it lacks subtlety in this format.
Shoot, what is that? There's a phrase from. Oh no, that's subtext, not subtlety. My bad. Anyway, move on. We're good.
Yeah. Writers who use subtext are cowards, or something like that. Yeah.
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
Yeah.
That one. From what is it? It's a show from.
I just saw it because it was somebody posted it making the rounds after the Final Fantasy Tactics writer basically came out and was like, the will to resist is with you. Somebody quoted that being like, yeah, the people who use subtext are cowards.
It's from a show that was originally in England, and then like Adult Swim picked it up, and it has some actor from the IT crowd is in it. It's because it's a showing the show that the fictional show that's in there where the writer is the main character, and but it's also like a documentary about like how the show happened and what happened to the show.
Garth Marenghi of I don't know, Dark Place Illuminame, maybe.
Yeah, it's Dark Place.
Dark
That's
Place.
it. Dark
Yep.
Place. Yeah, Dark Place is phenomenal show. Really funny. Really funny.
Yeah.
Really good. But yeah, that's where that like that's in the first episode, and that sets the tone for the entire show. Like he's a doctor who in England who has a gun that he uses all the time. It's great. It's like a giant revolver. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we, some of the elements I do like. I did again, like you. I love the doctor getting mad, and so the idea that like, he gets frozen. He sees this vision of Susan, which somehow brings him back, or gives him enough energy to use a confetti cannon to get back into the space station. Sure, whatever. But then, yeah, this idea of he uses hard light, and Kid has put ice in his heart that may never thaw, kind of thing, is like, that's a cold ass line.
That's a great line. It's such a good line.
And
when the doctor's mad, he has the most baller mic drop lines.
Yeah, and I don't. It's we see the moment of Belinda seeing this side of the doctor, and this I think touches on an element that over the course of the season I found myself a little disappointed by, and we'll touch on it really in the finale kind of stuff. But Belinda started out as such a fascinating character of like, I didn't want to be here. Like, how dare you scan me without my consent? What's like, I don't want to be here. I just want to go home. Take me home. I don't want to go on your frivolous adventures. I don't want this silly stuff. And I think she just like does a 180, and we don't really get to see all the proper steps in that journey, I don't think. And there's an interesting potential here where she sees that doctor on the screen first, and so he doesn't know she's alive. So he's mad about her potentially being dead. And then also that he was almost killed, and that, thousands of other people are out there frozen in space. So he's pissed off, and Belinda is like, that's not him. That's not the doctor. And then she gets to see him being violent. Yeah. But her response to that isn't what I think would have been a more natural response for the character that had been kind of set up of like, I think you need to take me home now. I don't want to be around this anymore. And is instead, I never got to tell him how much I like him or how much I love him and how great he is and stuff like that.
I saw that as her being a nurse. I saw that as her being, she sees somebody that she's come to care for like lashing out in a really negative, bad way. And what is the ailment for that? How do you what is the ailment? What is the treatment for that? And I think it will come up later as well, is that the treatment for the ailment of,
this was already supposed to be the doctor who went through therapy.
Yeah, but but here's the thing. Sometimes, even though you go through therapy,
yeah, it's a process. It's not
a process.
It's not a hey, you're healed and done.
Hey, he went through therapy. It's like, yeah, but guess what? As somebody who's been through a lot of therapy, you sometimes need to go back to therapy.
Yeah,
because therapy technically never ends, because you never stop growing and changing. Yeah. So, did this happen? And now you're feeling a lot of like your past trauma is now like kathunking into you, really in a really nasty, bad way. Happens all the time to people who've been through a lot of therapy, and Belinda is, and this is where I think what makes her and why I found her to be a really great companion is because this is when she steps into from being just a guest in the TARDIS to, and she does it in other places as well, especially in Lux, she does it. But she really comes into her own as, like, a companion needs a moment where they become critical and important to the Doctor to be a meaningful companion, in my opinion. And it's done through multiple ways. Across every companion, it's different. For me, this is a moment where, like, Belinda gets to show, hey, I'm not just somebody who can wrap bandages around somebody. I know how to heal hearts too. The Doctor needs this human moment of somebody who, because it's also touched on, he's told her, I'm the last of my people. he's just saw a million people get frozen. Like it's a lot.
Yeah, none of that came across for me.
Cool.
None of that
Okay.
came across as like this is Belinda being a nurse, and it came across more
Being
as
a healer
like,
more so than I would say just being a nurse. But,
okay.
Yeah.
It came. Yeah, it didn't work for me.
I think that's totally fair. That's how I took it in the moment when I watched it, and I'm like, this is why that works for me, and I get that it didn't work for you.
Yeah.
It's cool.
We do finally get the Doctor and Belinda learning from Graham Norton that the world was destroyed.
Yeah, that was
great. Back there.
That was a fun moment.
Fun little beat there, and then we get the post credits or the mid credits tease of Mrs. Flood being the last one regenerated, and oh no, enough of her froze out there that she's gonna die, and she regenerates or starts to regenerate, and then turns out she bi-generates just like Shooty and Tennant did into the Archie Punjabi version of the Ronnie, and confirming the the fan theory that that Flood has been the Ronnie all along. And we will see that, of course, further elaborated on in the final couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get Wish World, which has a lot of WandaVision vibes to it.
Definitely.
Set up by this cold open of the Ronnie going back in time to some point to get this child that turns out to be the god of dreams in the pantheon, or the god of wishes, rather. No, God of Dreams.
No, God of Wishes. It's
okay.
You make a wish. You kiss the baby, and blow the wish.
Yeah. Yep. Infant God of Wishes. Sorry.
You're good.
But yes, that whole thing gets set up. The shout out to Archie Punjabi as the Ronnie. I think she's great in everything that is given to her. I will say, and I think we can probably just do Wish World and Reality War together since it is a two-parter. Yeah. And we're already an hour and a half into this episode as a whole. I love everything about her performance. I hate the Omega stuff, and I hate how her version of the Ronnie just kind of comes to this abrupt end. This interesting setup of she's doing all this Wish stuff so that she can bring back Omega, a classic Who villain from 40 some odd years ago or whatever, and the first of the Time Lords, the man who created time travel and brought time travel to the Time Lords. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff you could have done there with that character, and
he's one of the 3 founders of Time Lord Society.
Yeah, and completely wasted. Which again, like
Russell T Davies. You had literally this brilliant, this potent soil that you could have grown an entire new arc for the Doctor, and it's just, and you fucked it.
This episode, or the Omega stuff, combined with the Sutek stuff from the first season, really had me thinking oh, this whole return with Russell Davis has just been member berries. It started out, let's bring David Tennant back. Remember that? Remember how great him and Donna were? Let's do some stuff with that. That's fun. Hey, fans of the old era, you remember the Toymaker? Let's bring the Toymaker back. Hey, fans of the old era, you remember Sutek? Let's bring Sutek back. We've brought back, the Daleks and Cybermen enough. We don't need to do them again. Let's bring back people like some of these iconic villains that hadn't made their return in New Who. But also, let's waste them all. Let's just turn them into CGI nothings, especially with Omega here. Let's bring Omega in. He's been distorted by the underworld. He's just become the myth that we've all said about him, and that's what he is now. Let's bring him in. He eats the Ronnie and then is dispatched within 3-5 minutes, something like that. Just a not even a full waste of it.
Not even a full 3 minutes, dude. It's 2 minutes because guess what? I have a 3 billion solar flare things in this beam, and it's
a weapon hiding in plain sight.
Garbo, absolute Garbo.
Yeah.
As somebody who, I was so stoked when I got teased by the Doctor Who TikTok account when they had a clip. I was like, oh my gosh, they're really gonna do Omega. I can't wait.
So that was
who are they gonna cast? Because they bring Rassilon, and they get fucking
Timothy Dalton
to do it.
Yep.
And I'm like, you have Timothy Dalton be one of the pillar, that's that. You have, of course, the Doctor is like I've talked about it when we did that episode with Logan, where I went hardcore into it. So if you want to know how, like, you want to know how down bad I am for Doctor Who, go listen to that episode because I'm down bad for Doctor Who. So getting Omega, I'm like, who are they going to cast as Omega? Who? You have an iconic character. Even when he was on screen before, he was masked.
Yeah.
So we didn't even see his face. Like, there's so much legacy here. How are you going to do it? A giant CGI monster? Fuck you, Russell T. Davies. Fuck you. How fucking dare you?
Yeah.
Fuck you, man. I cannot tell you how fucking my heart sunk. It opens. They turn it from the symbol of Rassilon to the symbol of Omega. They're opening his crypt. He's coming back to the real world. He's the mad titan of Time Lords.
Wait, why is his hand so big? That's uh-oh.
And I'm like, no.
Oh, no.
No. It really was just like no, man. Like, no. Wait, like, you brought back the Master and made him fun and interesting.
Exactly. Like, this could have been another Master kind of character, and it's such a waste.
The fuck up of Omega. The fuck up of Omega puts this episode securely at the bottom of my fucking list. Like, it is so. If I could have the other terrible episodes, I'd put them above this one. I'm so angry about this. I'm so angry about the wasted potential of Omega. Like, you have one of those legendary characters and you did the toy maker proper, man.
Yeah.
How the fuck did you you did everything else right, man. How'd you fuck this up? Man?
Yeah. You
want to know how you sell Disney? We brought back Omega, motherfucker. Season 3. Let's greenlight this shit.
Well, there's also that aspect of it.
Sure.
Like, this whole Disney thing was supposed to be like, hey, here's an entrance point for people to come on. That's why we've called it Season 1 and Season 2. So new fans, you don't need to have watched the 60 years of Doctor Who before this. You can just come in brand new. And yeah, who are the big bads at the end of each season? Sutek, a character that even New Who people don't know about. Then Omega, another character that even New Who people don't know about. You have to go back to the classic era to get some of these characters. And the Toymaker, yeah, somebody from the first season of Doctor Who,
the very first season of Doctor Who, man. Yeah, it's so...
Okay, you're going just all deep cuts and completely avoiding the Cybermen, the Daleks, the Weeping Angels in the modern era.
I would say my problem with the Daleks and the Cybermen is that, to me, the Daleks and the Cybermen have not been interesting since, like...
And that's, like, part of that's the problem, is that they're iconic, and the only reason they're not in these couple seasons is because Russell T Davies basically, like, challenged himself to write new creatures and new stories and not fall back on Daleks and Cybermen. And it's like, okay, yeah, but now, especially now that Shooty's just gone, the only Dalek that appears in this is the Dalek that we get in the little bit of, like, Anita, using the time door to try and find the Doctor, and she sees a Dalek walk past.
Yeah.
That's the only Dalek in the Shooty era.
Don't even get me started on Anita, then bringing it up and basically like, oh, it turns out she did have, like, pissing all over my love of A Joy to the World, and how I'm like, isn't it great that we can just have, like, two people who are of opposite gender just be just good friends and best friends, and can't we say it great? Oh no, she was alone with him the entire time. Fuck you, Russell T Davies.
I mean, I fully agree that I'm disappointed by it. They definitely set up in Joy to the World that she had a little bit of a thing for him. But then, like, the thing I loved about Joy to the World was it seemed like...
But that was, like, a small part of it. And
it seemed like she had a crush on him, but when she realized she wasn't interested, that's fine. She just was going to be good friends with him and, miss him when he's gone as a friend. And so for this to be like, yeah, I was pining after you, and so I came looking for you, and then I got heartbroken when I saw you with Rogue and immediately went and found a man, and now I'm pregnant.
Yeah, by the way, that also is another problem I have with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the real problem that I have with it is just the complete evisceration of the Belinda character.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
By rewriting
That's what I'm saying about that. Like, yeah. By the way, the Doctor's no longer viable? Cool, now I go and get knocked up by some dude in HR. which also is like problem, major problem. And somebody like, hey, Russell Davies, maybe
I immediately thought the same thing.
Yeah,
like, hey, red flag there,
big red flag.
You could have made him head of finance or something.
You could have had him be
any other job.
Oh,
but HR is problematic.
That's a problematic one. It could have been like, oh well, he's actually the head of custodial, like, or he's one of the. Oh, you love him. He's a vendor that we use all the time for all of our big dinners. He's a specialist in cuisine from across time and space. Like, you could have done something cool like that. Instead, you made him the head of HR.
Yeah.
The biggest of red flags you can give. Like Russell T Davies, my guy. Like, you are fumbling in the end zone, my guy.
I mean, that's the like Russell T Davies. I think is, and I think, like, this is not new. He is the same guy that in the first season of New Who created an alien species that their whole thing was they farted. The aliens farted. The Slovene farted a lot. Like, he has a very juvenile and basic sense of humor. And so him making the, like, yeah, I'm seeing the head of HR joke, he doesn't see as a problem. So it's whatever.
She's such a cool character, and you just turn her into the Doctor's pregnant pal.
And also the awkwardness of she's just there standing in the background holding the door open for a lot of the thing because she needs to keep, like, real time flowing in or whatever. But action-wise, that just means she is in the background. She can't engage in any of the scenes. She can't be an interesting character in any of these moments. She is just literally there holding the door open in the background. It's like, wow, yeah, way to take this really cool character that Moffat brought in and just shit it under the bed. Absolutely a waste.
Just everything in this last episode. This is also what
before we just continue to shit on this, absolutely love Jodie Whittaker's return.
Oh, she's so much fun.
Love the 13th and 15th Doctor getting to play around together.
Oh, it was so much
in
fun.
A little moment. I love the line of, like, I thought it'd be the other guy. He always shows up or something like that.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
The fun little tongue-in-cheek gag to
Tennant,
of course. But also, giving Whittaker a nice little moment that her Doctor didn't really have in her.
She didn't have a good passing of the torch moment. It was a bad, it was a difficult era for Doctor Who.
Sure. Yeah.
Whittaker, just the backlash of a female Doctor just to start things off was just like the toxic elements of the fan base just really reared their ugly heads.
New showrunner and Chris Chibnall.
Yep.
Didn't really, like, ever wow anybody with his stuff.
Yeah. And I think the problem was just, like, we had a really phenomenal actress. Jodie Whittaker is a phenomenal actress. Her Broadchurch is, like, where I first saw her in something, and I was blown away by her performances. Like, across series 1 and 2 of Broadchurch, she is a fantastic actress, and her character is phenomenal. And, like, the full circle that her character, and, like, as, like, kind of the heart of the community, even though it's not apparent, like, there's a lot that goes on with this character that's just phenomenal. But in part of that, like, Jodie Whittaker, she got cast in Doctor Who. I'm like, I can't wait to see her do this. And I love her as the Doctor, but her stories are just not great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that really needed to be hitting because you could shut up the toxic fan base, members of the fan base, the fake fans as they are.
Yeah.
You could have shut them up with some really by really wowing them, and it just didn't happen.
I think she has a few stories that I really like, while they are also at the same time, like, borderline way too on the nose with the things they're hitting. Like, I really like the Rosa Parks episode.
It's a great episode.
It has its problems, but I also really like the India-Pakistan episode.
Great episode.
Talking about
the partition,
the partition stuff. Yeah. And so, like, it did a great job touching on these, like, historical moments and bringing, like, I also really liked her first season of a more than one companion, kind of the fam, while also recognizing that by bringing in so many other people, it makes it that much harder to juggle stories for all of them. So everybody ends up getting, a little bit of short shrift and whatnot. So ultimately, when it kind of pairs down to her and Yaz, cool, great.
I think it's a little heartbreaking. It's like, I should tell Yaz I love her. He goes, you never do.
Yeah.
Oh,
but she knows. Yeah.
Oh, like it's such a, yeah, we know. Like, to the fans, we know you guys wish there was a I love you moment between the two of them.
Yeah.
but it's okay because she knew the doctor loved her. It's very much, it reminds me of Tenet and his twin and Rose, and it being like, tell me what you were going to tell me that one time. And he goes, well, you already know. And his clone just being like, whispers in her ear, and it's like, yeah, say it.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I think that's great about Ncudi's character, like his doctor, is this is the doctor that's going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the doctor that's going to live life.
Yeah.
Full blast. Like, this doctor is going to fall in love in an evening and is going to, but based on this friendship with Belinda, we stumbled into having a daughter. Wonderful. Let's do that. Let's go with that. And like, there is a joy and an exuberance that Ncudi's doctor has that is it takes a lot of the kind of like manic energy that Jodie Whittaker's doctor had. And then like, if that's like the seed, Ncudi's doctor is the flower that grew out of it. It is the flower that bloomed. And it is so like, and that's one of the things I'm going to miss the most is, what a wonderful doctor Ncuti Gatwa has been.
Yeah.
To touch, before we get further into that, I think to touch on the Conrad of it all.
Yeah.
Part of why I thought that was interesting about Ruby's wish for him to be able to find happiness.
Yeah.
To me, that was the Conrad we see afterwards. That's whatever that wish did wasn't magically transported. I think Conrad got this is the Conrad that basically it's like, if you could go back in time and make a change that put you on a different path, this is the Conrad that chose the right path.
Yeah. It's which, and that, I think that's my bigger gripe, is that Ruby even gave him that wish as a gift. And she even hates that. She even hates that, because she says, the one wish that comes true is that he just gets to go and be a nothing. We have to live with all the trauma because we remember the trauma that he inflicted on us, but he gets to just go be a waiter somewhere, or whatever.
He's a chef. He's a chef somewhere. I think
me, it's the
lack of justice. I
hate that. So this is more, I hate Russell T Davies giving him that ending.
Sure.
More than I hate Ruby giving him that ending.
Yeah, I look at it also like this, though, and this is where I think this is
you want somebody that should have been eaten by Omega? Fucking Conrad should have been eaten by Omega.
Yeah. I think this is also where this also comes from a very personal place for me, which is I wasn't always as progressive as I am today. I was not always to the nth degree. I was a neoconservative teenager. I was bigoted. I was racist. I was sexist. I was homophobic. I was a lot of things, but it's through and I'm going to use this term and I want to use it in the non-religious sense, but I was given the grace by other people to have the opportunities to grow. And I am who I am today because I took those opportunities to grow. I look at how there is definitely a path I could have taken to becoming a right-wing grifter. I definitely could have become a right-wing bigot, vocal point. To this point though, it's there is a level of grief and guilt that I will carry for my entire life of the people whose life I impacted negatively. That is not something Conrad's character is going to have to deal with, which is wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's the wrongness of it, right? If this had been a moment for not necessarily, and this is why I'm it's not really even really redemption, because he didn't pay a price to become the better person. He was wished into being the better person all along.
Yeah, the analog for me is, this is the shitty CEO who gets, found out and taken to court in the court of public opinion for being a sex pervert, creep, or whatever. It's the bad shitty guy from Bungie a few years ago who, laid people off at the same time he's bragging about how much money he has on cars and whatnot. He just logs off, deletes his accounts or whatever, and goes on, lives his life. He still has a shit ton of money and a shit ton of cars, and fuck that guy because he's never going to actually have to pay the consequences for the shitty life. This is, I mean, I've talked about this to you especially, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it. This is like the rage I have for one of my former bosses who basically forced me out of a company. Is the rage I have for a character like Conrad.
I think that's fair.
That guy's never going to see any kind of sense of punishment or comeuppance or justice for being the shitty person he is. He just gets to go on. He just gets to go on and keep living his life in all of the luxury that he has. And Conrad, he's not grifter supreme with all the money or whatever, but he doesn't have to suffer the consequences. He just kind of, he fall off the radar and nobody thinks about him anymore.
I think it's not even for me. What I took away from that scene is, in this, whatever reality we are living in now, Conrad never did any of that.
I mean, the real thing here for me is I can't help but put a Ben Shapiro, a Elon Musk, a Donald Trump on Conrad.
That's right.
And the fact that they will get far more, they will get an even happier ending than Conrad does infuriates me to no end. And so Conrad also getting a happy ending, I wanted to put all of my hatred on those other people and put it onto Conrad and see Conrad get a violent suffering or something like that.
That's
and
fair.
He doesn't, and I'm angry about that.
That's okay.
That's where I fall in that one.
I think that's totally fair. I don't know. It's part of it is like I mentioned, I live with the guilt of like the things that I've done and things that I've said to people and the things that I have, go figure. Where the last episode of that D Plus show, I cancel myself. No, but I've talked about it before.
I don't think anything you've done
to this level, never, not ever to this level.
Exactly. But you can have regrets and you can,
but it's more than.
But you did take a different path.
I did. Well,
you took a different path without somebody having to wish you to take a different path.
That's fair. But I think also this is also where that moment I mentioned earlier of, Conrad is just like for himself and whatnot, and now Conrad has the opportunity to make a good world. But this is also where it's like the shortcomings from somebody who hasn't really reconciled with the personification of white supremacy and systemic racism and all these things. Is Conrad doesn't see handicapped people as people. He doesn't see a trans person. He doesn't see a trans person
as existing at all.
Yep. Yeah. But that's part of it too. It's like, even with the best of intentions, you still exile these people out of society.
And that's, I don't think he even has the best of intentions. I think he is, that's where I come down on, he's weaponizing the doctor's words there of,
I think it's fair.
He's giving them comfort, safety, food, whatever the doctor said, to keep them complacent, to keep people from asking questions, to keep people from, wondering what's going on or whatever.
For me, though, it's more than he's weaponized. To me, it's not he's weaponizing it. To me, and this is why I think that is, there's that scene where the Ronnie comes in and he says, is everything okay? There hasn't been, obviously there's been some problems with this power set that he has, that he's been given, both this wish baby. Part of that is like he can easily cause problems and natural disasters and stuff. And so his panic is like, I didn't do anything too wrong, did I? It's that. To me, that is the slim, very small silver lining to his character of not being all shit. But still, I do think that this is what, and I mentioned earlier, I was the one who said it earlier. This is the worst character that has ever been in Doctor Who. This is the worst person.
Yeah.
100% it is. And I think that I think you wanting that end of that episode of Lucky Day of sit in your shit and deal with it. You're a nothing. And that being the mic drop moment and him just having to live with that. Yeah. I think that is certainly cathartic. But yeah, it's I will say, like, I don't think, if anybody's also disagrees with me on this at all, I do not blame them. I, like, 100% see where, like, you're coming from, like, completely. Because that's also where I was previously with it as well, but I've had some time and introspection to be angry about the Omega stuff more than I am about the Conrad stuff. Like, I didn't take it as a... And I guess this is it, is also, like, I've been a shitty person before in the past, and people have given me the room for growth and change. And my fear and concern is that, and I think this is where the difference is that I didn't see Conrad necessarily as like a Ben Shapiro, Elon Musk, Trump stand-in, so much as I saw him as the kind of young chud, the young idiot like I was. And I guess that's it. I was thinking of the young impressionable person who took this avenue of, whether it's grifting or not grifting, but this like really ass-backwards way of looking at the world, this anti-progressive, anti-intellectualism that I used to revel in. And I guess that might actually be my problem, is I'm not seeing him as a leader in this movement. I saw him as partially as a victim of the movement. But
then yeah, I think you just misunderstand the character.
I think I misunderstood the character.
He's clearly the leader of the movement.
Here's the thing. I was being too narcissistic.
Yeah, exactly. You're putting yourself
Yeah.
on him instead of seeing him as the leader of that movement. Yeah.
You know, you're right. I was wrong. Completely wrong. I take everything I said about that. I still stand by, like, hey, especially young people, especially the young conservatives that we're seeing now.
Yeah.
Not the people in leadership who, like the 22-year-old who just got put in charge of anti-terrorism. Not that asshole.
Yeah.
Fuck that kid. Fuck them kids. Those kids, fuck them. But, like, young people who are not in positions of power and control, who are falling into this, my heart goes out to them because I have been there.
Yeah, they're victims of a broken system, sure.
And they have opportunities and room for growth. It's not over for them.
Yeah.
And I think to say, like, all these kids, fuck those kids, like, you know, they're like, to write them off, I think only adds fuel to the rage and the anger.
Yeah. I think
people not writing me off, people literally listening to me and then giving me that room to, like, then listen to them and giving that back and forth that over time kind of chiseled away all the problems that I had. That can only really happen if you are not dismissive of their anger. You recognize it and you acknowledge it, and then you work with them through it. But that also requires the person to be willing to make that other leap with you. It's not always a one-to-one, but
sure.
Yeah. But I was wrong. Conrad's a piece of shit and deserved to be thrown into a billion suns.
I think the most telling line about Conrad back in Lucky Day is when Kate's like, "You're right, I didn't remember you from your interview, so I went back and looked at my notes, and you know what I wrote? 3 words: do not trust." And it's like, yeah, like,
that's fair.
He was a shitty guy back then, and they saw that, like, he's not made for this. He should not be in UNIT. He should not be in this. And, like, maybe that's when his vendetta against UNIT starts, but I mean, he's already a shitty guy by that point, assuming Kate is a good judge of character, which I think we believe her to be.
By this point, yeah, for sure.
So, like, yeah, he was clearly already down the wrong path by the time he had met with her some years ago or whatever. So, yeah.
I also saw that as like fascist wanting to be a cop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about that moment. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, no, that's much more of a... Yeah, I think I was a bit too narcissistic in this moment of being like, hey, like, I'm also worried about the young guys who, like, if we don't give them the opportunities,
the people who are not at all reflected in this series.
Yeah, you're right.
They're not the people we see on the screen.
I overthought this one, and that's on me. My bad.
Yeah, we're seeing the Ben Shapiro. We're not seeing the followers of Ben Shapiro.
We're not seeing the Cameron Abbott. We're seeing the Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. We're seeing Ben Shapiro. We're seeing Alex Jones. We're seeing just fuckfaces.
Yep, you're right. I'm wrong.
Anyway. Cool. But yeah, like, there was just and so then we get into all of the, like, I will say, the whole Poppy subplot of the last couple episodes.
I hate that we were even talking about the Poppy subplot because I'm angry about it.
I think it allows for one really cool and impactful moment, and a moment that probably gives Ruby her best moment in the series of that sad moment of the Doctor and Belinda handing back and forth the Poppy's like coat and folding it up, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller as we cut back and forth from them and Ruby's perspective, and so that Ruby becomes the only person that remembers Poppy existed after going through this whole thing of like put Belinda in a box for half this episode so that Poppy can survive. Poppy survives and everybody cheers and there's much rejoicing, and this interesting idea of like, oh, is that how we're going to bridge the gap between the Doctor and Susan? Are we finally going to use this to explain this is how the Doctor has a daughter, and that daughter will grow up to have Susan, and that's how we can, you know, connect this family and bring Susan back into it that we teased a couple episodes.
Yep.
Nope. Nothing there. Ruby gets this heartbreaking moment of like trying to argue and make the case that like, no, this girl existed. We went through all of this to try and save this girl. Doctor, that's exactly what you did for me. You went through everything you could after I disappeared. Like, so it has that potential to be interesting, but the fact that
how they resolve it is
by this whole like, oh, we've rewritten history ever so slightly.
I hate it so much.
To make it so that Belinda was always trying to get back to Poppy, and like it's very much like clearly the world we end this season in is not the world we started the season in, and time has rewritten itself, and Poppy has gone from being a space baby that the Doctor and Ruby met to now a real baby that belonged to, or that Belinda has and has always had.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
And so yeah, it very much, again, this is really where my distaste and disdain for the evisceration of an interesting character in Belinda Chandra gets wiped out. And like that, none of that is falls on Verada Setu. I think she is great as Belinda, even in this stuff that I hate. I think it is just absolutely shit writing. It is just a terrible plot from Russell. It's a terrible way of writing it out. And there is obviously this whole element of like, how much of that was rewritten to accommodate Shooty having to regenerate? I don't know. But it's like,
it still sucks.
It still sucks. Yeah. It's bad.
I think a big part of it for me is, and I mentioned like that night when I was like, I didn't like that. And I told you it reminded me of the ending of Andor and I mentioned, shout out to Sage Ryan on the Kind of Funny spoiler cast for Andor's last episode. She really very well, like I recommend people go watch it for themselves. Cause I definitely won't do her words justice, but to take apart a female character and leave and like boil her down to just her womb.
Yeah.
Belinda's now the entire urgency of I need to get back to my life is not I have a fulfilling career that like, even though I have 5 roommates and that sucks, but I still want to go back because it's my parents' stuff and all. Like, she has an interesting and fulfilling life, and then you've boiled her down to just wanting to get back to her daughter.
That's like, weirdly, she ends up like the quintessential Conrad's wish kind of thing of she's now just a mom. She's now just a woman with a womb.
The idea that, and this is also a thing,
she doesn't get to go on any adventures anymore. She never gets to go to Jupiter.
And you know what? Here's another thing too, also in my mind, that I should have called out Conrad for earlier. There's no gay people also in Conrad's world, because when the Doctor's like, "Well, you're a handsome man," and it's like,
"What do you mean by that?"
Yep, I should have actually. Sorry, I was way too like. Since that episode, I have been way too into like. I'm really concerned about like the young conservative youth of America who still have an opportunity to change and grow. And way too into that aspect of it, rather than, oh yeah, no, Conrad's fucking shitty. Trans erasure, ableist erasure, like ableism erasure going on there, homophobic shit. Like, fuck you, Conrad. No, Conrad should have been punted into the sun. I take everything I said about it back. Everything I said about it back. Conrad should have been punted into the sun. How dare you? Like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Fuck you, Conrad. Oh my god, no, I totally forgot about like the blatant homophobia that was exhibited there.
Yeah.
And like also the shout out to this very also being Poppy is the child of a lavender marriage of a of, for people who aren't aware of the term, a lavender marriage is when to both people being queer knowingly enter a relationship, like both parties can be queer, but one party enters one doesn't have to be, but when they enter the relationship, it's with the understanding that it's a cover. There's going to be love there, like there's likely going to be love, and there's going to be caring, and there's going to be feelings there, and it often led to children as well. But
yeah, I mean, I guess I don't get the point that you're trying to make, because Poppy only exists in this lavender relationship that exists only because of a wish. So like,
yeah,
Poppy, like, it's not like Belinda and the doctor had sex to have a baby Poppy or anything like that. It's a wish was made and Poppy existed, and they've made the deduction that like she was their daughter or whatever. It's like, okay, but none of that's real.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not sorry. I'm not trying to say like this is real. I was just like, this is another note about like how shitty Conrad is.
Okay,
I was conceding further. Conceding further.
That's another element I would even say is like goes against Conrad's character, because
no, that's what I'm saying. It does go against Conrad's character. Like Conrad's character is shitty. Anyway.
I think part of the problem here is with all the other things, the other old-fashioned things that Conrad is trying to make great again. He also wouldn't see a place for the Doctor or Belinda in it realistically.
That's fair.
So it's a cop out for the writing purposes that they've done, but it's
no, that's
whatever.
Fair. My thing about it is like what I mentioned earlier about like boiling Belinda down from being an interesting, young, vibrant character to just being a mom, being a single mom.
Yeah. Again, also the weird thing, which again, yeah, I mean, like the first time, the first thing we see, the very first scenes we get with Belinda are her going back to the robot revolution, her basically realizing that she doesn't really want to be in this relationship with this Chad boy of Alan or whatever, who clearly is another one of those like just shitty guys who wants to put a woman in her place kind of thing. So like the fact that she just where she ends up is just so disheartening and disappointing. And I get that like it's partially by design of like something is wrong in this world, but with no horizon in the future, I don't trust Russell T Davies, even if he gets another season, to fix that. Nothing's going to happen that's going to like right that wrong.
I agree.
Because he didn't even do anything with Susan that he sets up 2 episodes earlier, then tease up again in the when Susan pops up on the TV right before Rogue's message, in a moment that I was like, wait, where the fuck was Susan that episode when I saw her in the credits? Oh, I had missed that moment of her appearing on the TV. But it's just like, what a fucking waste of that. You do all this setup, you start reintroducing Susan as a character, as an idea in the first season. I had a granddaughter, she's right over there when we, we're here in the 60s kind of thing. And I haven't seen her in a long time. And then like even Ruby's whole arc of like reconnecting with family seems like it's teeing up the Doctor reconnecting with family.
Yep. And it doesn't fucking pay off.
And the Doctor has a vision to reconnect with family. And instead, the show's like, well, we all think of you. We think of ourselves all as your children because of how you've saved us all.
That's bullshit.
Like, shut the fuck up, Russell Davies.
Fuck you, Russell. Fuck you, Russell. You bring back Susan, you tease her, then you bring her back in a vision, and then you don't pay it off. Fuck you, Russell T Davies. Fuck you. Sorry, I'm gone back from like being like, I'm a little bit bashful because I definitely put my whole like ass in my mouth, like bypassed my feet entirely. My feet are down my esophagus, and now my ass is in my mouth, with my whole Conrad shit. And now I'm back to being angry about Russell T Davies. Fuck you for this bullshit.
Yeah. Just incredibly frustrating stuff.
What a way to fucking end it, man.
It just
way to fuck it up.
It just spurned that character so much. I'm just so annoyed by how much I don't like Belinda as a character by the end of this. And I don't see how anyone's really going to walk away from this thinking Belinda's like a great companion.
No.
Which is disappointing.
Because she had like here's the thing. I think she's a good companion, but she doesn't end up in a great place. So it's like it ends up feeling like one of the other companions where it's like short-sighted writing.
There's that. I mean, like I've seen a comparison to her and Martha a lot. And Martha benefits from. Martha gets some really strong moments of her own in her era, in part because she's basically running around trying to kind of run the ship in the family blood, and in that episode, in that two-parter where the Doctor is John Smith, and then also we got return appearances of Martha over the course of the series where she had become a force to be reckoned with at UNIT and whatnot.
Well, yeah, she's a part of Torchwood, so
yeah, and Belinda in this timeline, in this universe of things, isn't going to get that. She's going to be the first of the people really in the Ncuti era that aren't going to just go and work for UNIT after this is all.
Yeah, it was like, oh hey, she doesn't go to work for UNIT. Oh, no. Cool. What'd she do? She's just a mom.
She's just a mom now.
Single mom.
Who is a nurse?
Who's a nurse?
Great that she's still a nurse.
Doctor's daughter, bridging the gap and creating this whole ending the loop, that like the missing piece of the loop. How does the Doctor have a child?
And like. Maybe the one potential out they would have is like the Doctor lied about her being 100% human. Like he scans her, we don't see what he scans.
Oh yeah, that would be great. If
Maybe she does have two hearts and.
Oh hey, he goes back into the TARDIS after that, and he closes the door. And Susan's there. It's like, why'd you like? I always wondered why you lied to grandmother.
To Belinda B.
Yeah, I always wondered why you lied to grandmother, and just like what a great moment of your mother, your mother lives a regular life, and like this is where you end up, and that's where I pick you up.
Yeah,
and what a great moment of being like a reunion between grandfather and granddaughter, like ages apart, like. It could have been such a cool thing, man. You could have even like given us some saving grace there. It's like even like so much of this again comes down to reshoots. Like, hey, maybe they wanted to try and do something like that, but couldn't get Susan in for reshoots when this is all happening. So instead, they brought in Jodie Whittaker and then just give kind of Ncuti the tail end of it. Because I mean, like as it is, like it's so clearly Ncuti regenerates and like. Billie Piper's in a completely different location on a green screen, and basically her face just gets put on a body. Yep. And it's like, well, that's okay. Like it's again, it goes back. Like that moment happened. I was like, it's member berries. That's what Russell Davis is doing. Russell Davis is doing member berries. Yeah, you came out. You're like, so member berries, huh? And I was like, fuck you. Like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense.
It's
now
like,
you fuck you to Trevor. Fuck you, Russell T Davies.
Yeah, it's like okay. I guess this has the potential to be interesting, and not saying and introducing Billie Piper as the Doctor has the potential to be interesting. But I also think the most realistic scenario, if they get more Doctor Who, is she's in for a holiday special, and then they have she's in for one episode to basically bridge that gap because they didn't know if they were going to get a new season or anything like that. So she called Russell called on her for a favor. Basically, it's like, hey, we don't know what the future of the show is going to look like. Do you mind coming in and being the next Doctor? And if we end up getting more and, having somebody to be Doctor full time, we'll give you the holiday special. You'll regenerate into that person. And then, we'll do another season or something like that. Like that's best case scenario I expect from any of this. Worst case scenario is, show's done. And this 62-year-old run of Doctor Who has gone out on a fart.
Yep. Which honestly, with how the world is, I feel that's more likely, which is sad.
It's. I mean, like, I think it would be. I think it would in the tenure of Doctor Who, it would be another kind of like, it'll go dormant for a while, and the people who grew up with New Who will get into positions of power in the BBC and say, hey, we should bring New Who back, or we should bring Doctor Who back.
We should do New Who, but New is not NEW, it's NU.
That's already what they.
Is that what
that's
they already
That's
do?
already how they refer.
I don't know. That's how they refer to it.
Yeah.
I just like.
Yeah,
I don't pay attention to that shit.
Yeah, that's very much how this Doctor Who is.
Well, there you go.
to.
All right, there you go.
Yeah,
it'll be new Who. There you go.
Yeah, more new Who. Who knew moo? Yeah, whatever.
We've clearly been doing this
2 hours,
yeah.
and yeah, we're loopy. Let's go back to playing Mario Kart. So yeah, that's just such a disappointing end to this season and to Shudi's tenure. Like,
yeah,
there are moments I like. Like I do appreciate, as much as I think most of them are underutilized, I do appreciate that they managed to, even if he wasn't going to regenerate at the end of this episode originally, they treated it like a send-off of like, let's reunite all of his companions together, including Anita, and even with the little nod to Joy from Joy to the World at the end. I love the line from Jodie of like, don't go in fear, go with that smile. Or like whatever it's, I don't think that was 100% right, but it's basically that, like, go with, don't regenerate in fear, regenerate with that smile. That and like, I love how she's like, oh, you really are gorgeous, and even Shooty being like, man, I was the best of them, best male maybe. Just a lovely scene between the two of them.
That's great. Oh, shout out also to Mel getting to dig on the Ronnie. It's
yeah.
Like, the Ronnie, you bitch. Just such a great moment.
Like, I guess there's another little highlight. While one Ronnie, disappears, Mrs. Flood is still out there. So the Ronnie, lives another day, even if we never see Mrs. Flood again. And they just do, what they always do with the master of like, hey, there's my new face. Ha. Yeah. But yeah, just so much of this was.
It's just a waste of potential.
And that ends up being, for me, so much. While I love Shooty in the role, we just got so little time with him. Yeah. And it was so sporadic that, like, we talked about this the other night. Like, yeah, technically Eccleston has less time because he only did the one season. But he somehow feels more impactful because, and maybe it's because it was the one season that brought them back, kind of thing.
I don't know. I think
it's also like the one season he does at least has a few more episodes, so you can build an arc. Whereas both of Shooty's seasons being 8 episodes means that, and so much of Shooty's time also, like, 3 episodes are Dr. Light episodes out of 16 plus 2 holiday specials. So it's like, you're barely around for the episodes that we do have with you.
Yeah.
That ends up being disappointing. And he doesn't get, like, really any of those, like, classic Who moments and doctors or like villains and stuff like that. He apparently was the one who requested Russell bring back the Ronnie, so shout out to him getting that. Yeah. But he also wanted to face off against the Dalek and doesn't do that. And so it's like, what are we do? Like,
maybe it's because I was so Daleked out it didn't bother me, but if you're going to be the Doctor, you want to go up against a Dalek or a Cyberman.
Yeah, even if it's a, like, in a cold open to show how cool you are, you've taken out a Dalek, and there's been some sort of Dalek adventure. And this is something they can always, retcon it in Big Finish audio dramas and stuff like that. They can bring Shooty back to record some stuff, and here are the adventures you didn't see of me and Ruby. That was another thing I liked about Lucky Day was getting to see this, like, other adventure that Ruby had right after I love that they put it in the timeline right after this, like 30 minutes ago, I was in the 60s.
Yep.
So, like, I love that we slotted that into where that happened in the timeline of things. But yeah, it's just, there was just so much potential here that I feel like got squandered.
Absolutely. No, I think absolutely. I think the greatest sin of this new Russell T Davies era is incredible setup and just failure to deliver. Yeah. And it's all on him. I don't, like, everyone else is fantastic. Everybody else, all the, like, even a lot of like all the other directors, all the other stuff that we got out of this.
Yeah, a lot of the guest writers end up
Phenomenal.
writing the most interesting story, like the story and the engine and Rogue being like my two favorite episodes of this run, and Boom a little bit, I guess. But like Boom has the cop out of it's a Stephen Moffat episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because Kate Herron, who did WandaVision, did the Rogue episode, and she has a writing partner whose name I forget. And then the playwright Inua Elam, I believe, or Elas. Where are you? Elams. Inua Elams writing Story in the Engine, being like my favorite episodes. Lucky Day, a guest writer. Interstellar Song Contest, a guest writer from this season.
Yep.
Those Interstellar Song Contest didn't really hit for me, but like the others, the non-Russell T Davies episodes, it's so much I think comes down to like he probably burned through most of his good ideas in the first run. And yeah, maybe he's come back with a few good ideas in the second run, but clearly not enough for a couple seasons, and not enough. Like I think part of it also is this era of like, oh, everything's prestige television. So instead of longer seasons, it's shorter seasons and longer production times and stuff like that. It's like, I want more time with these characters. So when you only give me 8 episodes and a holiday special, I'm underwhelmed.
Agreed.
So, yeah. Well, let's dive into, as we wrap up here, before we give our grades for season 2 here, let's rank our episodes. I think
Sure.
we can go kind of like one by one. So for me, I'll start things off. My bottom of the barrel, my number 8, was the Interstellar Song Contest.
Mine is the Reality War.
Yeah, I gathered from your dissertation against Omega. But yeah, for me, like the Interstellar Song Contest has like a couple of cool moments, like it. But even those moments that I really liked, like when it aired, I watched the Interstellar Song Contest. I was like, okay, I'm intrigued by the Ronnie stuff, and I'm intrigued by the Susan stuff, but everything else I thought was meh.
That's fair.
And so when neither of those two things that I was intrigued by
Pay off
in any kind of meaningful or cool way, like again, the Ronnie was good. She's a lot of fun, and especially in like her very heavy exposition scenes, which we didn't really go into. Like she's over the top and fun and camp in the way that the actress who originally kind of played the Ronnie is, in very fun way. I love her Sonic being like designed
like an injection,
like a syringe,
yeah,
to play into her past as a scientist kind of thing. And also the color of it is Nightshade, which is another tie into her her original run episodes. But yeah, like so the rest of the episode just being a miss for me, and then the two things that I liked and that end up being a miss for me is like, yep, nope, that's bottom of my list.
That's fair.
So for me, number 7 was Robot Revolution.
Same, actually. Yeah, Robot Revolution. I love Belinda. This episode just has a lot of.
They just didn't do a good job of like starting the seasons.
No,
like Space Babies was probably my I believe my least favorite
was your least
episode
favorite
of the
episode,
first
that
season.
one, yeah.
And only by the grace of an Interstellar Song Contest does Robot Revolution also hit the bottom of the barrel for me. Because yeah, it's just like, okay, you've set up this new companion in an interesting way of like, we haven't really seen, since Donna, kind of the first time around,
like an
as like an antagonistic relationship with the Doctor. Every companion ends up being like, oh, swooning and fawning over the Doctor kind of stuff. It's like, don't really need to see that anymore.
It was a breath of fresh air for her character.
Yeah.
But man, does that the overall surrounding episode just really feel low in comparison.
Yeah. Number 6 for me is Reality War.
That's fair.
Where we talked at length about my gripes there. What's number 6 for you?
Wish World.
Wish World is my number 5. So yeah, basically like the two-parter there is just like, yep, I liked Wish World a little bit more because it has intriguing elements of this, like what's going on with this.
Yep. What's going on?
What has led to this situation? Why are things, before we get unsatisfactory answers in part 2, it was a fun mystery intrigue, and this WandaVision-esque, version of the Doctor and Belinda are suddenly married and have a kid, even though we, the audience, know that that's not their kid, and that's a kid from last season and from Space Babies, and what's this weird thing that's going on with the cups falling through tables, and why does Ruby remember things? Why does Shirley remember things? Like, what's going on here?
The whole alternate universe aspect of it, I enjoyed. There's a lot to it I enjoyed.
And we get a lot of fun stuff with the Ronnies.
Yep, the Ronnies are so much fun. You get just a lot of the pieces from other parts of the season get pulled into Wish World. That's just really, really good.
Yeah. What was your number 5?
My number 5 is Lucky Day.
Lucky Day. Lucky Day is my number 4. Basically, apart from me throwing Interstellar Song Contest down the list, we're almost in alignment for a lot of these. Lucky Day, as I said, originally was higher on my list, but because of my dissatisfaction for the ultimate ending of Conrad, I ended up notching it down a couple. Basically, it was going back and thinking well, I think some of the others still stand up better because they're not brought down by a very underwhelming 2-part finale.
Totally fair.
And Lucky Day does not get the benefit of that because it is so innately tied. It's basically part 1 of a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Across those 3 episodes. So what's your number 4 then?
Interstellar Song Contest.
Interstellar Song Contest. Yeah.
Like I said, this one I like it just a little bit more than Lucky Day. They're really neck and neck for me. I had a hard time deciding which one I wanted to put above it, but overall, the Die Hard aspect of the Doctor fighting terrorists, in a Euroverse rather than Nakatomi Plaza, is fun, and I like that.
Sure. Number 3 for me was Lux.
Interesting. Yeah, no, number 3 for me is The Story in the Engine.
Yeah. Lux, I think we talked about it at length in the last episode. I love I think the Mr. whatever he was called, the Alan Cumming animated character was a ton of fun. Where is he? Where are you? I still have you in here. Mr. Ringading.
Yeah, Mr. Ringading.
Mr. Ringading was a lot of fun. The meta sequence that we get is one of my, I remember watching that and thinking, wow, I think they just had one of my favorite little Doctor Who things, in the modern era. I thought that was such a fun, tongue-in-cheek love letter to the fans, in a way that also respects that the fans have built community around this.
Yeah. And also the idea that the fans...
But even that, there's now also this moment that's running through my head of but also the post-credit scene of them still being alive or whatever amounts to nothing.
Yeah.
But the episode itself, a ton of fun. Loved the animation, the art style, and just I thought it was so creative to have that character kind of be another one of the gods of the pantheon.
Yep.
Story in the Engine. Why is it your number 3?
I mean, for all the reasons we love it. This is also about personal taste as well. There was, and this is the thing. I will say these top 3 episodes, it really goes down to what I'm looking for out of the Doctor, out of Doctor Who, and the things that I love more than otherwise. I think this is such a great touchstone to the Doctor's mythos in storytelling and everything else. Here's the thing. You ask me tomorrow, this could be my favorite. This is really where I get into. I don't know how in this moment that I'm sitting here talking to you, how do I feel about it? This one's my number 3 right now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it could be my number 1 because something about it sparked a memory of I remember when that happened in that scene, and that me going over the episodes. I kind of was gonna put, when I initially looked at it, I was well, Story in the Engine is probably gonna go up top. It's about storytelling in general. It has a deep, personal narrative to the Doctor, being somebody who has fought and dealed and played games with gods. Like the grand mythos of the Doctor that I love so much definitely is held up in this episode. And the touchstones it touches on the idea of making a big deal that, yeah, this is the first time the Doctor is a black man. There is something very... Like, we didn't get the touchstones or like the importance of the Doctor being a black woman. We didn't get the opportunity for that, but now we're going to honor it and pay it justice here. Like, I love that aspect of it, but I will say I was never like, and this is the kind of thing, I like to see the Doctor at his wit's end and scared.
I think that's one of the things for me of Story in the Engine that we didn't really touch on is he goes through so many emotions in the episode.
Yes.
Like, we see him, it's another one of the moments in the season where we see him mad. When we see him mad at Oso, right? I forget. Omo or Oso? Where
I believe it's Omo. Because
come on, where'd you go?
where'd you come from? Where'd you go?
Omo, yeah.
Omo, yeah.
Omo Soso.
Well, yeah, for betraying him.
But yeah, like, this was my safe space, and you betrayed me. You baited me into this, and like, yeah, it's the like, he's angry, he's disappointed, but even when he's mad, he's still gonna try and save this guy's life.
Yeah.
And ultimately they have a nice moment where like he owns up and says, "I never should have done that to you. I'm so sorry." And the Doctor forgives him, and it's a beautiful moment. And so yeah, it's in that episode he has those moments. He has these high highs and he has these incredible low lows. And I think it does such a great job of really running the gamut and giving Shooty in particular probably my favorite performance of his run across that episode, because it is like one of the in the same vein that like he asked Russell to basically go up against the Ronnie. He asked Russell for a story in Lagos, and Russell obliged, and they've made a way to find it work, or found a way to make it work, and I think I think because of that he is extra invested in that story.
That's fair.
And he's giving it 110% for that story, and so it really stands out to me. And I will agree with you in that like my top 3 are great episodes, all timers, no major complaints about any of these 3. Then Lucky Day is kind of like a mid tier, and then everything else is like I never have to watch them again, and
that's fair.
I will be angry if I think about some of them again. Which is disappointing. But yeah, these top 3 are great. So number 2, The Well for me.
Same. The Well, it's that one for me.
So yeah, we basically just swap our 1s and 3s.
Yep.
Yeah, The Well we touched on already. Like, already it was great, and then when they throw in this twist that it's also a sequel to Midnight, a great story from the earlier era and stuff like that. Cool. If it had just been that of like, haha, here's a secret Midnight sequel, it would have been probably underwhelming. But the fact that they won me over before making that reveal, I think is what really seals the deal for this one being a standout for me.
I think in this moment that I'm sitting with it right now, that's the surprise of it being a sequel episode. It like the surprise of you pull.
There's another one because I was watching these as they went. I was trying to ward you off of like, hey, avoid spoilers because there are things that can be spoiled about these episodes.
Oh, that was when I actually went and sat down. I was like, well, I have to watch them now because otherwise I'm going to get spoiled.
Yeah.
And that's when I watched that. I went in, I think, 3 major batches of episodes.
Yeah.
The Well is just there's something about bridging the gap between the 10th Doctor and the 15th Doctor, bridging that gap and giving us this return of a villain that was abstract and scary and conceptual, and in scaring the Doctor in only a way that the Doctor can be scared in. The Doctor's not scared of Daleks. He's not scared of Cybermen. He's not scared of these these terrible, horrible, things. It's the conceptual creatures that the Doctor's afraid of,
mm-hmm.
which is why I enjoy this episode so much.
It's the when he hears the whispers, it's whispering his name. Like, this creature knows his name because it, embodied him all those years ago or whatever.
That to me, when it's like, it knows my name, and I'm like,
what?
Immediately I was like, what? Like, we have an entire season dedicated to the name of the Doctor being this, like, very hallowed thing, and for it to be desecrated in a way. And it does some, there's the holy ground of, was it Trenzalore, and, like, the TARDIS in its enormity after being blown up, like the whole, like, the whisper the Doctor's name, all of that is just such a, like, being now paid off here, years later, in this creature that is whispering the Doctor's name to him, is such a, like, bone-chilling moment.
It's also such a, like, because it can either be a bone-chilling moment in this kind of sense, or the other time we get introduced to a character that knows the Doctor's name, it's River's song.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it has a completely different connotation of, like, there's only one reason I would tell you my name, being, like, which then leads eventually to the wedding of River Song. And I don't like how that all the name stuff basically was just a setup with no payoff either, but that's a Moffat problem.
That's a Moffat problem. That's a problem. That's another problem.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
Some of these problems are not unique to Russell Davies.
No, it's kind of a problematic issue with the everything Doctor Who.
With trying to honor 60 years, and, like, if anything, credit to Chris Chibnall for taking a big swing like the Timeless Child. I give him also massive props for that, because he also was basing some stuff in that 60-year history, but being like, hey, what if I take it and kind of turn it on its head? Yeah.
What if I told you something that longtime fans who've read a lot of the prose know, that the Doctor is somehow a second incarnation of this mysterious third pillar of the start of, like, of Time Lord civilization, but what if there was somebody behind the three pillars?
Yeah.
What if there was, like, this, and that's the stuff I liked about Chibnall's stuff, is, like, Chibnall being like, there was a intelligent force behind the three pillars of Omega, the Doctor's original personage that we now know as the Time Child. What did I say?
Timeless Child.
The Timeless Child, and Rassilon. We know that between the three of them, there was somebody who was orchestrating it behind the scenes, and that's the whole plot of, that's the good stuff of Chibnall's stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's also honoring that, and, like, yeah, it shows you can do that well. Like, controversial at the time, because not all the fans knew about the prose stuff and all that stuff. But.
Yeah, there's also this, like, in the same vein, Chibnall also brings the Time Lords back only to destroy them again.
Yeah, but that's another problem. That's a problem. Hey, you brought back the Time Lords. What's the payoff? They're all gone now? I don't know about that one, Chibnall.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's everybody likes to do that. Russell likes to do that.
Moffat likes to do that.
Did Moffat do it?
No, Moffat only brought them back.
Moffat kind of kept them, well, because Moffat did the 50th, so Moffat did bring them back and put them in, like, the little pocket dimension.
Yeah, and then he did.
So he brought them back so that Chibnall could bring them back proper and then decimate them all again. And
also, they introduced that we could Time Lords.
And yeah, now they're sterile apparently.
But yeah, anyway, there we go.
So yeah, my number one, Story in the Engine. Your number one, Lux.
Lux is, for me, this is where the crossover of the horror of Doctor Who meets with, like, the mythos of Doctor Who in a really great way, of the Doctor is contending with a member of the Pantheon, but this member of the Pantheon is somehow trapped here. And I'm like, I like that aspect of it. He's been torturing the theater owner or the theater manager for years. Or months. Sorry, months.
Yeah.
But how's he doing it? He's hooking him along by, like, the only way I can be with my wife is this way. The arc that the manager has of burning the reel with his wife in it to, like, free himself from the hook of Lux. Lux being given what he wants, and that being his comeuppance as he's realized into, like, the meta narrative of the universe, and then becomes part of the overall tapestry of time and space, is such a cool way of, like, how do you beat a god by making the god even more powerful and so omnipotent that he becomes omniscience himself. I love that. There's so much of that, like, the Doctor being clever Not the Doctor's smarter, not because the Doctor's stronger, not because the Doctor has more technology. No, it's because he's more clever, and that cleverness being like the best part about Doctor Who. So that's why it's my number one right now. Like I said, tomorrow I could be like, you know what? Actually, I really like the mythos of tying in like some stuff that happened with the Fugitive Doctor, because that's really fucking cool.
Yeah, I think I've had like a month to think this at this point. Story in the Engine, we've already talked about why it's my favorite of the season. I think it's probably up there with like Blink and Heaven Sent as like my top 3 of
That's big.
the era. And like any of those, I think on any given day could like it's the same as kind of like your top 3 there of like ask me on any given day and I'll think like, oh, what a great moment this was in this one.
Also, Alan Cumming as Lux is just really fucking great casting.
It was indeed.
And I'm just like, Mr. Ring at the there's a lot that's like once again personal to like my taste.
Shout out to the baby in Wish World having the giggle as their laugh.
Yeah, really messed up.
Yep.
Really great. Really, really great. I'm like,
somebody pointed out it's like you have to like zoom in and freeze frame and stuff, but the logo for the Interstellar Song Contest is the giggle chord. It's like it's ... kind of thing. So it's like I doubt that was like written into the stage directions or something. I think that's just somebody on the creative team thought this will be a fun little Easter egg that maybe some people will catch.
Some of the best people work on Doctor Who.
Yeah. So
and Russell T Davies.
Yeah.
Sorry, still angry.
Just anger. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. That's we wrap up here on a long one. Let's dive into the report card. We grade from A+ to F. What do you want to give season 2 of Doctor Who?
Man, this is gonna sound so crazy. It's an A- for me. I like the highs are still so damn high that it's like if I'm being real here, Lux, the Well, and the Story and the Engine are carrying this season on their fucking back.
Yeah.
And they're so damn good, I'm giving the season an A-.
That's
like that's where I'm at. I'm like, these 3 episodes, like the 3 pillars that started the time, like the Time Lords, tying that in here, holding this season up above water. Goddamn, what if we had gone on the opposite way of like that, by the time we get to reality war, I'd be like, this season is an F.
Yeah.
But we're on the opposite end of it. I love Lux. I love the Well, and I love Story and the Engine so much.
That was something
I can't give it a lower than it.
Something else that I didn't mention earlier, but there was a moment when I was watching week to week and you were like letting them kind of build up. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about it was because it was like Lux was great. The Well's even better. Lucky Day's even better than that. The Story and the Engine's like it's like Lux was an all-timer for me. Like when watching it, I'm like, holy crap, this is a great episode. And then they kept getting better and better and better for a little while.
And then they get shit.
They just fall off a cliff at the Interstellar Song Contest for
Here's
me.
the thing, Interstellar Song Contest may not be that high for me if I'd watched it week to week.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that would be. Maybe you lucked out there. But yeah, and then Lucky Day ultimately
none of us lucked out because the reality war still happened.
Sure. For me, it's similar in that like Story in the Engine, The Well, and Lux are all A+ for me, easily. But I dislike so much of the other stuff that happens in the season, and it comes down to a waste of potential. That's really what so much of this is. The Omega stuff's a waste. The Ronnie stuff's a waste. Belinda's a waste. Shooty's a waste. That I just end up. For me, I'm gonna go a B- for the season. Okay. Because everything else, like some of those others, it's like they're sitting comfortably down in D territory or D+ territory, but we got a few A+ that kind of bring up the curve for everybody. But yeah, ultimately it's just like especially if this is the end of the Doctor for the time being and for a while, a disappointing way to go out.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Like if I were to be Logan about it and be like, all right, I'm gonna pick and choose what actually my ending is. Doctor ends with the story in the engine. Boom. There we go. They never go to the Interstellar Song Contest. We never find out who Mrs. Flood is, but fine, because I get the story in the engine, and that's really cool. So yeah. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. Disney Plus recommending out there for you, Andor, which absolutely gets the easy recommendation from both of us.
Absolutely.
The Mandalorian, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Loki, Miss Marvel, The Orville, What If, and the Special 5 of Doctor Who, aka Joy to the World, which is another thing. Like, the way Disney Plus has wildly like the fact that each of the 60th anniversary specials are their own like special instead of just everything being in the Doctor Who item of Disney Plus is just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing, Disney Plus? Extracurriculars. Did you watch anything else on Disney Plus, or was it pretty much just Doctor Who?
I've been watching. Here's the thing. I've been using to watch Shogun.
Yeah.
I've been using it to watch Shogun.
Yeah.
Shogun's real good.
There you go. Yeah, nothing new from me. So, and yeah, as I said, top of the show, that's going to do it for that D Plus show for the time being, for the foreseeable future, as we wind down our podcast output here on That Nerdy Site. We might come back here. You know, we'll still keep the podcast feed going for the foreseeable future, probably another year or so. Beyond that, you can find anything on YouTube because none of those are going to go anywhere. And we might come back for, a one-off That D Plus show here and there, or if something, really makes its way. I keep joking if like Into the Spider-Verse comes and gets added to Disney Plus, if Spider-Man No Way Home gets added to Disney Plus, those I think would make sense. Maybe, Fantastic Four is going to come to theaters in a month. Maybe when that comes to Disney Plus in a few months, we'll, dust off the mics and do an episode for that. Who knows?
Yeah. It's coming down to if we feel compelled to do it, we will be back.
Yeah.
But this is also a time for us to
enjoy not having to do stuff.
I can't believe we're going to go longer on this, but here we go. To really put it into encapsulate it is, I've said it about That Nerdy Site show. Like, we do this for the love of the games that we play and the things that we enjoy. And when you spend so much time creating stuff based off of the things that you love and enjoy, you get to a point where you stop finding joy in those things.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of it gets harder and harder to find, hey, what are we going to talk about this week on the podcast? In the pandemic and the heyday of Marvel throwing a bajillion things on there, cool, we got plenty of there to do. Star Wars throwing a ton of things onto Disney Plus, cool. The backlog of, Disney movies and Pixar movies and stuff like that. There's definitely still a ton of things that we could do episodes on if we wanted to, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but there's nothing really calling me. There's nothing I'm really dying to sit down and watch just to do a podcast about. So, I think this is a fitting time to kind of tie things up. Even like something that I think actually the potentially most realistic thing that I will come back and do will be the next time I take a Disney trip, just for old time's sake. I'll do another episode of Behind the Attraction, just because that's what I've done the last handful of Disney trips I've done.
And you enjoy. I think that's one of the things.
Those are fun.
Those are fun things for you.
Because those are little quiet. Like, I just kind of hop in here and do a little quick 30-minute solo episode of the same shtick for the most part. And yeah, here's a thing, me gushing about Disneyland and the things I love about Disney stuff. And yeah, there isn't a demand for me to continue doing this so much anymore. So yeah, we're gonna kind of hang up the microphones and call it a day here on That D Plus show. Thank you to everybody who has joined us for our 269 episodes. Nice.
Is that also part of it too? Any with a nice episode?
One or any? No, that was just complete happenstance. As I said, if I had realized that we were gonna have to push the last week's episode until June anyway, I would have just been like, okay, yeah, we can just end on Doctor Who. We don't need to do the Atlantis episode, and we would have just ended on 268. So, it's whatever. But yeah, it's been fun. I've loved kind of doing this as like a regular part of our weekly ritual here for the last 5 years, 5+ years, almost 5.5 years, I guess. This started in January of 2020. So yeah, just about 5.5 years.
It's June 5th when we're recording this, so it's been 5.5 years.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to all the fun times we had here on that D Plus show. Shout out to Logan when he was much more available to be much more present on the show. Shout out to any guests we had, especially back in the early days when we were much more active at bringing guests on. Shout out to Frank as well from his era of bringing stuff like Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off to the podcast. Shout out to the frickin' Leprechaun one that still gets a whole bunch of searches.
Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
There you go, Darby O'Gill and the Little People. What are like our second episode or whatever it was?
Yep, I brought it to the table. You guys were like, "Why?"
It's you brought it to the table, and I was like, "This is exactly what I want for this kind of show." We started with a Goofy movie, then now we're gonna do a live action movie that I've never seen and had barely heard about from the '60s and stuff like that. Then Disney Channel original movie $1 Million Cook-Off was our third episode.
It really does encapsulate what what's your vision of the show. Watch the first 3 episodes.
Yeah,
but imagine it with video.
Exactly. They're all like those the first year or so where it was just an audio show. But it's still pretty much the same format. That we never changed it that much. I started adding in little fun games and stuff like that, and then when we would do like a Summer of Star Wars or our Pirates of the Caribbean series or Spider-Man stuff, it was like, let's throw in some fun, Ragu Bagu-esque segments like our friends over at Kind of Funny, and also, the ranking of those franchises and stuff like that. So it's always been a fun joy in that. And, one of the most fun episodes in that first year was when we were all at PAX and did the Brink episode all together in the hotel room from PAX. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, shout out to every guest who has joined us. Shout out to all the people that joined me for various Hamilton episodes when Hamilton dropped on Disney Plus during the pandemic.
Shout out to just anybody who's ever been a part of this, whether you're an audience member listening, whether you're here at the beginning, whether you're here at the end. Just how much we've appreciated you guys. No matter what part of this project you've been a part of, know how much we've loved and appreciated and enjoyed doing it.
Yep.
And I also want to say shout out to Trevor for making me a part of this. Don't know how I ended up in the. Well, I do know how I ended up in the co-pilot seat. I was willing to sit down.
You moved in with me.
Yeah, I moved in with you for sure. But I mean, even before that, it was.
Yeah, even before that, during when we were still living separately, it was you became the de facto person because you had the time and were willing, pretty much.
That, and I also know how bad it sucks to always just be doing a solo cast.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody to bounce anything off of, and so the dynamic's not there.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things that I had about this formula and the format of this show going from the start was there's enough like just kind of general like, hey, here's historical stuff about this, here's the trivia, here's who's who in it, and other things that they've done. So there was enough of it that it could just be like, okay, yeah, it's just going to be me going through all those bits, and then I'm going to share my thoughts, and boom, it's a 30-minute solo podcast. Cool. But yeah, it's always, certainly, of course, as most podcasts are, much more fun to have the conversation, to bounce ideas off each other, to, spend 2.5 hours turning you around on why Conrad sucked as a character, and he wasn't actually a stand-in for you, Cameron.
I know, right? Yeah. Once again, like, what a way it also ended to be like, is Cameron still as narcissistic as he was at the beginning? Unfortunately, it appears so.
Yeah.
My bad, folks. Sorry.
Podcasts aren't about growing as a person. They're about saying, the same things over and over and over again into a microphone for 5 years.
That's a bit too honest, Trevor. That's a bit too honest.
That's That's what everybody thinks about podcasts anyway.
Yeah.
And we love them and we participate and do them
Yeah.
anyway. So yeah. Shout outs to everybody again who's been part of this journey as we wind down that D Plus show. We will still have at least one more episode of that Nerdy Site show this coming week, and maybe a few more beyond that. Who knows what we're gonna do with that one just yet? But yeah, this one. It is an element of like, even when we opened up to start doing Hulu stuff, and yeah, we could open it up further and do like HBO stuff or whatever. At this point it just becomes or we can just call it. We can just
just button it up. Like a great thing also is like, this is not ending because despite my best efforts in this episode, we haven't been canceled. There's no massive controversy. There's been no massive falling out between Trevor and I. There's been no. We're ending this on such a good high note that I honestly, like, any other way to end this would be bad.
Yeah.
So,
to quote the doctor, this has been an absolute joy. So yeah. That is going to do it for that D Plus show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me for this and so many other episodes. You follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I just want to give a massive shout out to, once again, to our audience out there. You silent motherfuckers who, anyway, no, I honestly, it's, when I joined that nerdy site, it was never going to be in this co-pilot role. It was never going to be in a serious hosting role. And through necessity, I just kind of ended up here. I consider myself very blessed in my life to have people who enjoy being around me. Despite, my best efforts otherwise, or, not to be getting too deep into self-deprecation here, but I'm just so grateful for the opportunities that I've been given to put my words to your ears. I'm going to end it on that weird and awkward note.
You can follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social. The shout out I will give, as I mentioned, we're going to have, that Nerdy Site show still going to come out on Monday. So stay tuned for that. We will be back this Monday. We took this last week off because of the delay in last week's that D Plus show and stuff. But we got the Switch 2 today, so we'll be chatting our thoughts at least on Mario Kart World, if not anything else. So yeah, stay tuned for that this coming Monday. And then I also want to give a shout out to my friends over at the Castle Vault.
Yeah.
Kind of one of our companion sister Disney podcasts. Josh and Jason have been running that. We pretty much started right around the same time as basically big Disney fans. I've been friends with them since they were doing Toys to Life podcasts back in the Disney Infinity and for me Lego Dimension eras of things. So shout out to them. I'm supposed to, I think, still be guesting on some upcoming episodes with them, but they've done rather than kind of just pick and choose random stuff like we did here. They, if you are unfamiliar, started as basically a chronological watching through all of the Disney animated films, and then once they finished all those, I think they switched over to I forget if they went to Marvel first or Star Wars, but they basically kind of did one of those. Then they did Disney animated, then they did Pixar, then Star Wars and Marvel and all that stuff, and then they did the like straight to DVD era of animated movies. So I got to go and do a Goofy movie with them for that. And then, yeah, as basically new things have come up, they've been kind of going back and slotting in some of those other things. So I think I'm supposed to be on their Agatha All Along episodes whenever they get around to that, but I haven't checked in with them in a little while. But go check them out. They're always a ton of fun and just a great energy as well. If you like this show, you will most likely love theirs as well. and they're still going, as far as I know. Need to double check that because they're not on Blue Sky, I don't think. So, so I need to just touch
one
base
of
with
them
them.
is
Yeah, I mean the individuals are on Blue Sky. They don't have like a Castle Vault podcast channel on Blue Sky, I don't think. So yeah. But anyway, shout out to them. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site for the little waning days here of the site. The site definitely won't be going away for another year or so. I'm about to re-up that domain and all that stuff here next month. So all that stuff will still, all of the archives will still be out there for you to find and search and whatnot. And I imagine, presuming Cam and I are still around end of year, we might dust off the podcast mics for best of games and movies and stuff like that too, since the feeds will still be alive technically. So yeah, once again, if you like what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that stuff. As I said, if you share it, you got a whole big 269 episode backlog to go and check out if you are so inclined. And the nice thing about them, being podcasts on things on Disney Plus is they're pretty much all evergreen. You can go watch any of them after you watch any of those things. So yeah, that's going to do it. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed.